I think, I think the building's gonna be pretty simple stuff, the site plan and then into the building later. So the only other thing that I noticed, the building is 72, but you have the square footage right. Oh. Yeah, that was the original number.
Yeah, well, thank you for doing that. That's very.
Are you guys ready?
He told me that. Oh, awesome.
You guys ready? All right. Good evening. I'd like to call to order this planning board meeting for the Westerly Planning Board for Tuesday, May 19th. Present this evening is myself, Matthew O'Neill, Vice Chairman, Jean Gagne, Secretary Derek Lombard, Planning Board members Perry Kellogg, James Nicholas, and James Russo, our alternate member, Patrick Lemp. Our town staff present this evening is our planning fellow, Diego Martin. Our assistant solicitor for planning and zoning sitting in tonight is James Murphy. And our minute taker this evening is Chloe Chanel. I did that out of order, so I want to make sure I didn't miss anyone, correct? Oh, what did I say, James? See? So for the record, then, let me make sure. See, I know I read it out of order and then I got all flummoxed. There you go. And Jeff has a new tag or new old tag. So if anyone in the audience doesn't know who he is, now we all know who he is, even though I just said it backwards. And joining us momentarily will be Morris Devine, who's running a few minutes late. Oh. There you go. Sorry about that. Our first order of business this evening is approval of minutes. We have two sets of minutes this evening. The first is from April 7th and the second is from April 21st.
Motion to approve April 7th, 2026 minutes.
Second. Any discussion from members of the board? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? All those abstaining? Okay, so I have 4 and 2. So 4 yeas, 0 nays, and 2 abstaining. So the motion carries. And for the record, Morris has now joined us. The next item is the April 21st minutes.
Motion to approve the April 21st minutes.
Okay, I have a motion that's been seconded. Any discussion from members of the board? Hearing none. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Any abstaining? Hearing none, the motion carries 7-0. All right. Our next order of business is changes to the agenda. Are there any recommended changes to the agenda from members of the planning board? Go ahead.
Yes, my understanding is that we have a material in front of us from the assistant solicitor.
Yes.
And like to move that in front of actually in front of F1. So
That's-
the
I
next
think-
thing on our agenda.
Yeah, I think what we can do is have the solicitor do that as an entrant, intro to that item on the agenda, just to
Okay.
make sure it's
All right.
clear for that. No, I agree with you.
So that was a solicitor's report, but okay.
Does that work for the solicitor?
Yes, it wasn't going to be a solicitor's report. I was going to include that at the beginning of either F1 or during Diego's presentation. Typically.
Does that work? Okay. Any other changes or questions for the agenda this evening? Okay, hearing none. Next is old business. We have none on the agenda for this evening. So our next order of business is F1, new business, 2026 UMJLD 01 Master Plan Review, Unified Major Land Development and Variance Request, Musquamacut Fire Station Expansion, 65 Crandall Avenue, Assessors Map 64, Lot 214. This is a review, discussion, and possible action and/or continuance of a public hearing to a future meeting by the planning board on a master plan and request for relief under unified review. Mr. Nana, floor is yours. What's that? I'm sorry? Oh, I'm sorry. Before you present, I'm sorry. We just said we were going to start with the solicitor. So Diego, if you want to introduce the project and then the solicitor and then Mr. Nana, the floor is yours. I apologize.
So the application proposes renovating the existing fire station and constructing an expansion along with paved parking, drainage improvements, and a new septic system. I think there's just a few issues that we wanted to go over with regard to proper procedure for unified review. So I'll pass it over to James.
Thank you, Diego. In front of you, the board members should have a copy of RI General Laws 45-24-41. I just printed those out as a refresher to the board. And I know you have a few new members as well. Regarding the proper procedure for granting and considering dimensional variances under unified review. In particular, you'll see on page 2 of the document you have in front of you, it lays out the 3 factors or the 3 elements really that the board needs to consider when considering dimensional relief. And those are that the hardship from which the applicant seeks relief is due to the unique characteristics of the subject property and or structure and not the general characteristics of the surrounding area. The second one is that the hardship is not the result of any prior action of the applicant. And the third one is that the granting of the requested variance will not alter the general character of the surrounding area or impair the intent or purpose of the zoning ordinance or comp plan. The only other, when it comes to dimensional relief as well, if you look a little further down, it's on E2. In granting a dimensional variance, that the hardship suffered by the owner of the subject property, if it's not granted, it's more than a mere inconvenience. And the way that's defined by statute is meaning that the relief sought is a minimal to a reasonable enjoyment of the permitted use to which the property is proposed to be devoted. So I just want to give a quick refresher on that's kind of the parameters and the evidence needed for the board needs to consider for purposes of variance under unified development review.
Right. And just for the purposes for clarification, that's for each individual dimensional variance, not as a whole, but for each individual one or taken as a whole if there's multiple ones for a particular structure.
The board can consider all the variance requests as a whole. If the board has questions regarding an individual variance request related to these elements that you're going to consider, they should ask questions of the applicant regarding those. But if the board is satisfied that all the dimensional variance requests meet these elements, then the variances can be approved as a whole, not individually.
Thank you. Any question? Okay.
Is there any, Mr. Solicitor, is there any consideration given under Rhode Island general law, zoning law with regard to public safety buildings? So like police stations, fire stations, hospitals, those types of things?
Not for purposes of variance or dimensional relief requests, no.
Okay.
It's just what's outlined in the statute itself. The board must consider those elements that are outlined for purposes of granting in this dimensional relief.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Solicitor, my question is, and we spoke with Scott about this a couple months ago, right? And I still don't have a firm grasp on it. Number 2 and number 1 here seem to be a little bit in conflict to me. If you purchase a small lot and then try to build a larger, this isn't, necessarily applicable here. But if you purchase a small lot and then want to build a big property on it, a bigger footprint building on it, is that not an action that you've taken knowingly? Do those two, you understand what I'm asking?
I do understand the question, and my understanding of that is that's not considered an act by the applicant themselves. The lot, so for instance, if the lot is a pre-existing non-conforming lot,
Well, let's say it's a vacant lot
okay,
and it's not non-conforming, but you purchase this lot and you want to build a large home on it.
that in itself, my understanding is that in itself is not an act by the applicant that created the
Okay.
hardship. However, it may fall into some of the other categories
Sure.
of, for instance, being the relief sought is minimal to the reasonable enjoyment. That granting the requested variance while alter the general character of the neighborhood. My understanding of law is that the lot size itself is not an act by the applicant to put themselves in the hardship.
Okay.
You may.
So there used to be a term, unbuildable lots. They were just so tiny, so small. But is there any such thing under the law? I mean, it's general,
Off the top of my head, I don't know.
Okay.
That's something we can look into, certainly, but, generally speaking, if the lot's unbuildable, it's gonna remain that way. Just
Okay.
because there's certain lots that.
So
can't be-
someone could buy it and never be able to use it, never be able to build on it. They can use it, but they can't build on it.
Yeah, with some caveats, I believe, but I'd like to look into that a little more
Sure.
before I give you a solid answer on that one.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions from the solicitor? Or for the solicitor? Sure.
Isn't there something in the zoning where that you cannot build or not to do an addition to an existing structure more than percentage of what the structure is? I thought it was a 30% rule, and this is more than 45%.
I don't know off the top of my head if there's a specific zoning regulation that prohibits someone a certain percentage. And I don't, speaking generally, I don't want to speak about the application yet, but if a party requires a variance for that, they can request one for that. I don't think there's anything that specifically prohibits it. That's why you have the variances, the ability to apply for a dimensional variance if you are over a certain percentage.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for the solicitor? Or for our fellow? No? All right, in that case, Mr. Nana, floor is yours.
Well, thank you. Again, for the record, Tony Nena with On-Site Engineering. I have a professional engineering degree and I prepared the site plan that's in front of you. I'm going to do a brief introduction with everybody that's here with me. Paul Eisenhower is the project architect. And behind Paul is Chief Van Dyson and the Fire District's treasurer, Leon D'Onofrio. Sorry, tax assessor. I'm going to share the screen here and okay, that's tough. So my first slide, I just did an overall aerial view of the site. I'm sure everybody here knows where the fire station is. It's directly across from St. Clair's, corner of Crandall and Second Street. This particular drawing, or this is the 65 Crandall right here, where the fire station is. They also owned a parcel in the back. So, but a couple months ago, we did an application to merge the lots into one lot, so we can do this project. So, even though there's two, there's one lot from Crandall back to the east of Second Street. Predominantly residential. There's some commercial at the north part of Crandall, and then of course you have Atlantic Avenue at the far south end. So the site now as it sits, the existing firehouse that's approximately 4,244 square feet. It has the doors, access doors for the vehicles on the south end of the building, which is on Second Street. And then it has two detached garages that they use for storage. So it's not only the fire apparatus, it's the fire district's properties, the lifeguard chairs, the boats, everything that they need to store for running not only the fire department, but also the district itself. The parking is mainly along Second Street, and there's additional gravel parking at the east end of the building. It's serviced by public water. We did have a hydraulic study done, and there is adequate water supply to support the project with sprinklers. And we've also conducted test holes and started an application process with DEM for the septic system. So right now, the septic system is in the back right here, between the main station and the garage. I'm not sure if it's a older type cesspool system, but that's going to be replaced with a denitrification system. So we'll be conforming to all the state regulations regarding that. So the next slide is what we're developing. So there's a small addition out the front, which is the main entrance. Will be a covered entry. And then we're going to construct a 72-foot long addition to the firehouse. And that's going to be additional storage for vehicles in the lower level and their supplies. And also on the second floor, there'll be living quarters for the volunteer firemen. The front part of the building will continue to have a conference area or meeting area with a kitchen. And we've added a parking area in the back on the east end of the property. Enough to store, enough to have, I think, 4 spaces. Because we're adding impervious area to the site, and we're asking for a variance on that. We're taking all the stormwater from the existing and proposed addition, and we're taking that roof runoff and running it into infiltration areas. So none of it will become runoff onto the Crandall or Second Street. Same thing with the parking lot. It's small in size, but we're going to capture everything from that impervious area and infiltrate it through an underground infiltration system. We're proposing a dumpster pad at the southeast corner of the building. So Second Street, they'll be able to drive from Second Street, and which is right here. This is the dumpster area right here. We're showing it to be enclosed by fencing, and we're putting a couple of bushes or trees on either side of it to buffer it. The other, because we're adding this, let me back up, in this front covered porch area, a covered entryway. Because we're expanding that, we're going to need a front yard variance from that. And that's a 2.5-foot variance. The side yard is the north side of the property, which is right here. And when you see the architecturals, you'll see that we've got a staircase in the back, and that's why we're seeking that variance. a 1.5 foot side yard variance. And that's because we need the second means of egress as it's second story living space. The property line along Second Street is called the corner side. And it's already non-conforming. The existing building is already non-conforming to that. And we're just, the main building is going to follow the same alignment as the existing fire station. And there's a small little bump out right here, covered entry. That's where we're seeking that variance. And because we combine the lots, we're able to do this, and we will not need a rear yard setback. So that's one of the dimensions that we're asking relief for. Because of the size of the lot, we had the zoning official draft a decision on parking spaces and uses. And we came up with that we need a variance for 4 spaces for that. With that being said, St. Clair's across the street has a very large parking lot. So when there's functions, there's a verbal agreement that the fire station can use the parking area for overflow parking. Also, there is parking at along Crandall Street that is allowed to be used for parking for emergency situations. And there is a handicap space right here that's existing in the street. Because of the expansion of the building and expansion of the parking area, we are over the lot coverage or impervious area. We're allowed 35% and we're proposing 64%. So we're seeking a 29% variant for that. And by taking the provisions for the dealing with the stormwater, I think that helps our case with the variance, because we're not flooding the street with water, which would be an issue if it was all paved. The last variance is building height. We're seeking a 6-foot variance for that. And I'll have Paul talk about when he talks about the architecturals, the height variance, but basically it's to house the alarm that goes off every day at 12 o'clock. So there'll be like a little cupola for that. Also, because we have to get the fire trucks in the lower level, it has to lift the floor up. So everybody would have to, so that the trucks could get in and out of the fire station. So like I said, I show the 2 filtration areas in the front right here and here. That's for the existing roof. And then I have another area back here, right in this corner of the parking lot, for the rest of the proposed roof and the parking lot. Let me do you want to start with the elevations or floor plans?
Why don't we, so members of the board, my name is Paul Azanaro, principal at Architects and Associates, registered architect. I have handouts as well, but everything Tony has got PDF'd on his, but if you, there's only a couple handouts that when I explain the heights, I want to just hand it out as to clarify. Basically, a little bit of background. The fire district has been very vigilant in terms of getting this project off the ground, and studies were done many years ago, and there were good documents that we went off of and deficiencies, and so they basically put it out to the district of three options: renovate the existing, which is what we're all used to seeing. Second option was doubling the size of the facility and renovating the existing. And lastly, the tear down the building completely and reconstruct. They brought it to a vote with the fire district, and option two was unanimous. A lot of work on their end to get us to this level. So basically, we're renovating what you see in front of you here. Pretty much the meeting room, the kitchen, the chief's office, the small district office in the front will be maintained, upgraded, but same uses. That section of the building is fully handicapped accessible. The apparatus bays that were done circa 1975, they're very functional. There's room, there's clutter now, but they're functional. Those originally were done with 12-foot doors, 12-foot wide. It's adequate, but as the apparatus needs grow, the need to expand both on the apparatus room and the district storage. Basically, the sheds they're pretty shot, so we're gonna accommodate that. So two brand new bays, with the heights that were prompted to use a 14-foot door is going to be the norm with ladder trucks and such. On the new addition here, you'll see 14-foot doors. All the doors will be changed over to glass, and it's our intent is to basically shake up the whole look of what we presently see. Back in 1929, the original structure was the main hall, apparatus room right, apparatus room left. Since then, the doors have been covered up, and you still have the foundation just for the center core, but the apparatus rooms are still slab on grade. So there's really no historical value because it's already been changed over for its current facility. So with the 14-foot high doors, we're able to get a mezzanine that underneath will house the comm center, what we handicap bathrooms, what we call the washroom, and then there's the gear, the air tanks, and also the air and washers for the contaminants. So that's in the core of the building, plenty of height because of the 18-foot ceiling to get headroom over the mezzanine, and as it acts as such, more storage up there. And it's a connector that we're using because of the long run up to the second floor, 18 feet. The floor is set at 20 feet off this apparatus floor. It gives us a landing zone to get up to the top. And we could probably, so just in general, upstairs, we have the sleeping quarters. It's housed for four rooms for bunks, which you see up on the south side. There's a linear trunk, which is training room, gym, and then district storage, which is a lot of files. In the center core, that stair will, so the top floor is basically for, and Chief can embellish on this, it's for basically firefighters that work throughout the state, and they have a permanent place to live here at the station as I want to say core for free so that they can help with first response. And pretty much the public will pretty much stay into the common space downstairs. So the parking set on the east side, there's a direct access up with an outside stair that will have cover. And then you come in, and you're basically at the mezzanine height. It's that first floor up. And then another second set of stairs to bring you right up to the top floor. On the top floor, as you come off the stair and take a right, you're into the residence area, living room, lockers, bathrooms, kitchen, and in the northwest corner, there's an open area for porch. And it's kind of discreet, so it's out of the public view, but it's nice outdoor space because of the nature of primary summer season, but it's a great space for people that are living there for the season and then some, meaning all year. As we go down a floor, you'll see the mezzanine. That's basically a cylinder, right? That colonnade in the middle there, that's basically all storage. And then underneath that is the core that supports the facility. This is all non-combustible construction. You see as we move from left to right, the existing meeting room, kitchen, chief's office. We do have an area for type B handicap accessible area, handicap bath as part of that meeting room, the two large vehicles they presently have, and then we jump into the two new bays for the apparatus. This is more than just trucks, but it's tractors, it's jet skis, it's boats, it's anything that moves in the event of a crisis is in those primary bays. Those 14-foot doors will handle ladder trucks in the future. And then you see the comm center, handicap accessibility, the cleansing room, and the hazmat area cleansing. And then to the right is the district office, anything that's equated to the beach. The beaches the fire district owns eventually gets housed in that area. That's more like the tractors, the truck.
Lifeguard stand, mule, ATV, all the rescue gear, dirt, storage, can't keep people in the rescue huts at the beach, it gets full of. Defibrillators, rescues.
Could you step up to the mic just so we can make sure we hear you for the record? Sorry.
I'm sorry, in addition to the fire department equipment, the district itself has a tractor to maintain the 3 beaches that we own. You've got a gator for the lifeguards to get around. There's all sorts of equipment, all the life-saving gear, the heart defibrillators that are maintained on the beaches during the summertime and stored there in the summertime, along with the rescue surfboards, things like that. In the fall time, they all have to come off the beach, or if a storm is coming, even during the summer, they have to come off the beach so that they don't get damaged and lost. So all that storage happens right now in one of the sheds that's behind the current existing building. So that we would be able to get rid of those 2 outbuildings. One stores the pickup truck for the fire department, the other stores the tractor and all this equipment that we have to maintain life support down at the beach itself.
Thank you.
So in addition to that, it needs to be relatively secure in terms of people just haphazardly going into that area because of all the equipment. And well, that's basically the function of things here. So we've got an existing, the existing building that we have is 4,120. We're going to add on the first floor. It's 72 by 60, that's 4,320. Gives us the total first floor square footage of 8,440. The mezzanine equates to about 640 square feet. That's usable storage. That stair in the north end, that is mezzanine access, so it's doesn't need to be confined. It's basically a glorified ladder, but it's basically an open tread type stair to get up to the mezzanine. And then the top floor, keeping from 72 by 60 less the porch, we're looking at about 4,065 square feet. Total building is 13,153 square feet. Okay. So that's the function, that's the layout. Again, we're complying to what we have here. Certainly, any bit of ground that's left over is for infiltration, it's left for parking. And we're pretty mindful of that, so it was kind of compact as much as we can get it. Go back to the perspective. You can just bomb through those. That's the front elevation. That's front elevation that we're looking at from the road. We did a slope roof because there's a lot of issues with the existing brick parapet wall. So we put a metal roof on that section. As we go around the corner to the south, next slide, you can see the slope that was minimal slope. That slope can be easily accommodated with metal roof. We'll zip it up a bit. And then the existing rubber roof will redirect with foam and all of our energy insulation towards the back. So that'll be all directed to our downspouts. And then from there to the right is the new structure. The big hardship here is the 14-foot doors with the tracks and the use of the below the mezzanine. It needed to be an 18-foot clear ceiling, given us with all the open apparatus with steel and everything, gives us a 20-foot floor height, 20 foot off the slab. And then up top, we broke it up enough. I think it's in keeping with some of the homes, the larger homes that we're seeing in the area, trying to keep it as residential looking as possible, instead of doing a box. I refuse to do the box, but it's functional, and I don't believe it's over the top. It's truss roof, wood truss roof. The top floor is 3B protected frame. It's all sprinkled. And the exteriors will have composite materials. The front section the original brick, there's a lot of problems with that, cracks and repointing. We plan to paint that and then put some kind of banding down low. And then we have some trims throughout that are going to repeat itself, particularly on the south, the west, and the east. And you can't really see it, but on top of the columns that are fit out, we do have some lighting that's going to come alive in the event of an alarm or a call. We have little red lights, if you will, linears that'll go in some of those small details in the column. Not gaudy, but just under control. There's red lights there now, but this is going to be very refined and directional to make it stand out that it is a rescue facility. And there's some pretty nice detail that we've got incorporated. A lot of the materials are maintenance free. So we have a height limitation to 35 feet existing average grade. Luckily, we're pretty flat right across the board. So the height, the ground is probably about 8 inches below the slab. So take into account, we're looking for a 6-foot height variance, basically midway up the roof to the peak. Midway up the roof to the peak, and that's the 6 feet that we're asking for. In addition to that, the cupola, that is an open air structure. And if you all know, 12 o'clock down the beach, you get this howling, it's actually a fan driven,
The speaker.
it's speaker. So it's loud, and we have basically open, the cupola is open to house it, protect, otherwise we'd be running a mast up the side of the building, and we found a place to put it that is going to, I think, help the aesthetic. And I don't know exactly if an architectural features, because I think the cupola, we took it that the cupola is independent and that it's by right, if so desired. I think there might be a limit on that as 4 feet we're discovering recently. I'm not quite sure of that. But 6 feet height variance will get us to the ridge, and 10 feet will get us up to the top of the cupola. Now, the only thing I'd like to just show you as a quick handout, there is the existing, across the street, we have the church. And basically the 4-sided cupola, ours is a little bit steeper, but it comes into the same height. Less the steeple, the cupola with the louvers and then the steeple. So the picture as we see it today, photoshopped with Google, and then the next picture is rougher than rough. But that gives us the exact heights of the fire station in relationship to the church. I can do that by measuring crossing. Certainly we can blow up scale and get it accurate, but the crossing is the real 5-inch crossing, puts us right on the 7-foot doors, and the height's pretty accurate. So I just transferred the 35-foot limit where we're allowed the 6-foot variance we need to continue the ridge, and it's kind of shown there. And then the remainder is the open, it's physically open. It's not glass, but we're showing imagery of a casement or windows or what have you, but it's not glass, it's just an open frame, probably keep some of our bird frames out. And then the 4-pointed gable finishes us off. And it's actually hitting that the existing band. But just to show you height, it's not extreme of what we're seeing in the area. And I think housing the horn does 2 things. It recognizes it as a community building, gives it some presence, and I don't think it's that out of line given what's right around the area, and to house the speakers, protect them. Flip the other elevations. That's the south, I'm sorry, the east end again. Basically, you see the gable roof come up above from there. Trying to keep. this-
Close to the mic, please.
A little closer to the mic.
Oh. Sorry, next slide, please. Okay, and that is, okay, so then this basically is the north side. The stair that you see is the first flight will send you to the mezzanine, into a door, climb over the mezzanine, then continue up to the top floor. You'll see the porch area to the right of the taller structure, then it breaks to the existing flat roof, and then the slow sloped metal roof for the front. Okay, that's the existing. We got perspective in there. We got perspective sides in there. Okay, so that's side with my back to the south, towards the rear of the property, Second Street, looking northwest. There's the very front. You can see we're carrying some of the fenestration with the columns. We have a canopy over where the roof overhang is. I think you'll get a lot of 3D imagery as you turn to the left, seeing the porch up high on the left, and then to the right, you'll start seeing the line of bays. Yeah, I mean, that's given the building some pretty dynamic, but it's tied together. That was our big concern. How do you tie in the two buildings and make it all come alive and look homogeneous, same kind of style? Certainly looks clean, upgraded. Next one. Is that it? Okay, and then we have back elevation looking towards the road. And between the back, the center gable in the back is basically to have the antenna towers against the gable, so they're not just willy-nilly out. They're anchored to that gable as they go up, and actually not too far above that peak. You have 3 or 4 stanchions.
The antennas
Yeah.
won't be above that peak, won't be more than 3 or 4 feet.
Yeah, I think that's pretty much it. I don't know if we have any more. That's it, yeah. That's it. That's all I have. Certainly available for any questions.
Yeah, we do. Yes.
Motion to open for a public hearing.
Thank you very much. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. At this time, I'd like to open the meeting to anyone in the public that would have any need to come up and speak for the board, or any questions regarding this particular project. I know we have a couple of people here, so
One at a time, please.
one at a time, and as you come up, just make sure you identify yourself for the record, so we'll get right into the record.
Once again, my name is Leon D'Onofrio. I'm the tax assessor for the Muskogee Fire District. I've been a property owner here in Westerly for about 33 years, and proud to say a resident for the past 6. Joined the board probably 15 years ago, and been a real pleasure working with them. I'd like to thank you all, first of all, for listening to our requests. I think it's a great cause, and it's definitely something we need to do. The original building that you've seen in pictures here, the brick building, is approximately 78 years old. There was the addition put on for the couple of bays. I think that was back in the late 70s, if I'm not mistaken. So even that's running in the 45 to 50 years old. We struggled with what to do. Construction for a building like this nowadays is very expensive. We looked at this project back in 2012, and we were ready to go forward with the total destruction and reconstruction of a new building. The price at that time was approximately $2.3 million. Then came Superstorm Sandy, and we lost our beach houses, or the safety shacks down at the 2 parking lots. We had to come up with a whole lot of money to rebuild those, not to mention rebuild the entire beaches themselves. This project went on the back burner. Well, here we are 12 years later, and we're looking at what to do and how to do it. We've been working on this now for about 2 years. We went to our tax, our residents and our tax property owners in the town, and we came up with 3 options, as Paul had mentioned at the beginning of this. One was to just refurbish the original building. The second one was refurbish and add this addition. And the third one was to tear it down and start new. Prices, needless to say, to tear down and start new ran about $6.5 million. The district, while, you know, everybody thinks it's the Gold Coast, the district doesn't have a lot of money, and people aren't that enthused about paying a lot more money for their annual fire district taxes. Plus, when we looked at the difference between option 2 and option 3, the additional benefits we were getting from a size perspective and a value added perspective didn't make a whole lot of sense to us. We presented to the taxpayers last June, and we gave them all 3 options. We gave them the cost analysis for all 3 options and the benefits for all 3, and they selected option 2 by far. What I'd also like to say is that there were a lot of issues, and we currently have a lot of issues with our current building. And we're not taking this just to make a bigger building. We're not doing this to make just to make more storage. There were concerns with regards to EH&S for our firefighters. We don't currently have a decontamination room in our current fire building. We don't have showers in our fire building. So your firefighters go out to a fire, they come back, leave your clothes, we'll send it out to get washed, and oh, by the way, get home and take a shower. Doesn't seem like the right thing to do. We have other issues with regards to storage. That's real. As the district grows and expands, we may need at some point in time, and I know that the chief probably doesn't want to talk about it tonight, and our property owners probably don't want to consider the cost. We may someday need a ladder truck. We need a place to store it. Rescue equipment. Nowadays, it's not just a fire truck. We're down at the water. It's a boat. It's a jet ski. It's all the equipment at the beaches themselves. You got defibrillators you need. You got surfboards you need to get out to people to rescue. There's a lot of equipment that is needed, and you need a place to store it. And as I had mentioned earlier, in the fall time, when we close up, all that stuff has to come out of those shacks and go up to the firehouse or to our shacks, which are our 2 sheds, which are probably about ready to come down. I know one of them for certain. The second one's pretty darn close to it. The other thing that we talk about is it's very difficult nowadays to attract volunteer firefighters. We provide service for the state of Rhode Island at the state beach. We provide support for the town of Westerly town beaches. We provide all the fire and rescue support there. We take care of our own residents, approximately 1,300 resident properties in the district. It's growing, residents and businesses as well. It's getting to be a challenge. And we also provide firefighting support, or actually the support for Weekapaug. So not only do we cover MFD, but we have a contract, a 10-year contract with them. Actually, we just re-upped for a 10-year contract to provide firefighting service for the Weekapaug Fire District as well. So we're looking at this project from a lot of different perspectives. Trying to encourage new recruits when they go around and look, I want to be a volunteer firefighter. Where do you look? Where are you going to look in this area? You're going to look at Dunn's Corner. You're going to look at Watch Hill. You're going to look at Squamicut. New recruit walking into our 78-year-old building with a weight room downstairs in the basement. not a whole heck of a lot else to offer. And we realized everybody else has upgraded, we haven't. And not that we want to take recruits from anybody else, but we do need recruits. Our average firefighter's age, I hate to even say it, but it's probably close to 60. And we do have some young ones as well, but if you looked at the average, it's pretty tough. So we really do appreciate your thoughts and your considerations. I know there are a few variances. We've tried to mitigate them as much as possible. There is an existing entrance cover. I think the new one might be a little bit larger than the existing one. The side variances are following the existing lines. The parking on the street for the handicap is there. We know that, you know, the police department allows the church to park on the roads during masses, and I'm sure they don't have an issue with if you had a car or two that had to park on the road for a rescue or a fire call, which isn't usually the case, but it may be. So we've tried to, in working with Tony and Paul, try to mitigate those as much as possible. But we do understand that there are requirements, and that's why we're here trying to present to you why we want to do this and the reasons for it. I think this is in the best interest of the Musqueam Fire District. I believe it's in the best interest of the town and the state as well, for us to continue to provide the services that we do provide. So thank you very much for your time. Really do appreciate it.
Thank you. Chief, did you have any words you wanted to say?
Yeah, basically touched on it all.
I'm just gonna, if you want to, sorry. Just so for the record, they get
Yeah,
to that.
Todd from Dyson. I live on Crandall Avenue. I believe Leon touched on most of it. The one concern I have, at 57, I am the youngest member in the district. A lot of our younger members are coming from Dunn's Corners, Westerly, and we'd like to provide some sleeping quarters for them. The blizzard that we just had this past winter, if we had a call in that 24-hour period, we wouldn't have been able to have guys get down to the station. Hurricanes, stuff like that. So, you know, we're hoping for your support. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. All right, being no one else in the audience tonight, that time, I think I'll open it up to members of the board. If you have any questions, for the applicant. I don't know which direction we want to start tonight. We'll start down there with Jeff and work our way down, or?
Yeah.
All right, Jeff? James?
First question's for the solicitor. Do the garage spaces count towards parking? The indoor garage spaces?
No, they do not.
Okay. So first of all, Paul, great job as always. I think from what we're seeing, or from what I'm seeing in the drawings, this is a dramatic improvement architecturally. It's in keeping with the neighborhood, actually more so than the existing structure. As far as the setbacks go, you know, we don't have any abutters here dissenting or having any issues with it. I think they're minor. You know, the 6-foot height variance, that siren is important. I heard it at 4 o'clock in the morning last night, well, this morning, 4 o'clock in the morning, and I heard it when our pagers don't work, or they don't go off, or when the phones don't work. You know, we kind of count on those as first responders. So that 6-foot height variance is no problem with me. I think we saw a good illustration of the superimposition of the church versus the height of the fire station. So obviously it's not in keeping with the neighborhood, with the church being directly across the street. You know, 2.5 feet on the front, 1.5 feet on the side. I have no issues with that. I typically leave the impervious surface stuff to our resident engineer and chairperson here, so I'll defer to what you have to say on that, Matt. And then just from a big picture standpoint, I'll echo what Leon and Todd said. It's very difficult it's volunteer numbers are down across the country. It's exceptionally difficult to staff a volunteer station in a town or a district, which is largely non-residents. You know, the majority of the residences in Watch Hill, Misquamicut are, I would assume, seasonal. So adding that, the sleeping quarters, I think is great foresight on the district's level. I think that's going to be a good value add for them long term, and most importantly, it'll, you know, help to staff another good volunteer station, which I might add, you know, responds not only to Weekapaug, but mutual aid to all of our other Dunn's Corners, Watch Hill, and Westerly when needed. So that's a, you know, that's a really, really good idea. I think it's good foresight. And I am in full support of the entire project. Yeah, I think that's all I have. Thanks, James. John?
Oh, Jeff, go ahead. I'm sorry. For Paul, it's a beautiful design. Looks like it's going to accommodate exactly what James had mentioned. Where's the mechanical room for all of this? I don't see it on the drawings. You know, furnaces, electrical, power. I don't see a designated mechanical.
We got lucky here. We're out of the floodplain. So we do have, the core is still in the basement. We have the, right now we have oil burner. There is going to be a new line for gas. There's emergency generators out on the north side. Right now, we're still playing with the idea of having enough emergency generator to either drive heat pumps, but we would have air handlers up in the attic. So the boiler plant, the real mechanical room, electrical room is right in the original core basement, which is really uninhabitable because of the beam heights but it's clean, it's dry.
That's functional for the size that you're proposing.
Absolutely.
You're tripling the size of what you have.
Right, but the apparatus room will have ductwork exposed going from bay to bay and then jumping across. And then the residences up top will be confined with more than likely, we have a concrete floor, so everything will be up in the attic fed down. And then we'll be able to feed the existing meeting room kitchen from underneath. So we've got places to isolate all those major four zones, really.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Yes, I have seen the old firehouse and it really is really old. I can't think of another building that looks like that in town. That's age. So you've taken good care of things. That's the good news. The variances that you have here, and for most of them, and that horn you have is very loud because I have been at Uzzy, a friend's house in Uzzy, when it goes off every noontime to tell me it's noontime. So I agree, it needs to be there. And they're very smart here to it's always good when God's looking down on it. So that was a very smart move. But yeah, it's right across the street, so I don't have any problem with that. The impervious surface though, is there any way that through this project that we think we can add more galleys, more underground infiltration? So that what are we rating here for a storm event with your design as is right now?
Well, the entire roof is going to get dumped into the infiltration areas.
Yeah, they're all going underground in the
Yeah.
front, yeah.
I typically design for a 25 to 100-year storm event.
Okay,
I do have the septic system. I can't make the drainage any bigger because it's setbacks to that, but I tried to maximize that as much as I could.
And along the side where you've got with this side where all that pavement is there anything that can be contained under there? Is there any opportunities there?
mean,
In
that's all-
utilizing some technology?
Yeah, that's all existing.
Okay,
I don't like pervious pavement. It's a lot, it's high maintenance, plus the heavy vehicles that are going over it.
Yeah.
I did talk to the town engineer. They recognize that there's a problem on Second Street over to Benson. I don't know if that is on their next list to spearhead. But they're gonna coordinate with us as far as repaving Second Street so that they do it after our work is done.
and Musqueamicut there was a storm drain system down in Musqueamicut with a pump and all that. Is that service this area? I don't think I don't know if it does.
It takes.
I don't think it does.
It's part of Crandall, yeah.
I live at 1 Crandall Avenue.
Yeah.
So I'm down at the end of the street and the water comes down Crandall Avenue. So all the water from Shore Road comes down that road and it'll flood. And it'll get flooded for about 20 minutes till somebody hits that switch. I don't know, maybe it's automatic. I don't know. Within 15 minutes, if you have a complete water going from sidewalk to sidewalk, within 15 minutes, it's back down to nothing.
So
Prior to putting that in, you could have floated a canoe. There's a little road there. It's actually a private way, Violet Lane, right on the side of my house. That's how I pull into my driveway. And it goes from Crandall to Benson. You could have literally floated a canoe through there before they put those pumps.
now, would you say you're at 1 Crandall Avenue? Is that toward the beach or away from the beach?
1 Crandall Avenue is the second house from the corner of Atlantic. So I'm
Okay,
at
so you're
the,
toward the beach. Okay,
two hundred and
got it.
fifty feet off the high tidal.
Yeah, but in with the area where the fire station is, are there any storm catch basins?
Well, there's
Part of the
there's
system?
storm catch basins all the way up and down Crandall. I don't believe there are any in Benson until you get further down.
Right.
Yeah, I think down past First Street is where you start to see some of those catch basins to collect into that system.
Well, the good news is that you're not at the top of a hill and all this water is running off, so. All right, I need to think on that, but I need to think on that. Thank you. That's it.
Chair, can I ask a question of the solicitor before?
Absolutely.
Okay. So, I want to say, you've done a great presentation in terms of expressing the need as well as, the attractiveness of the property. But I do want to come back to the zoning variances, because I think that's an important part of this proceeding. So E says the zoning board of review or where unified development review is initiated pursuant to the planning board or commission shall, in addition to the above standards, require that evidence is entered onto the record of the proceeding showing that. And then specifically E1, non-conforming use of neighboring land or structures in the same district and permitted use of lands or structures in an adjacent district shall not be considered in granting use of a variance. Can I ask, this presentation of the church, does this, according to that reading, does this have any bearing on our decision?
Well, I would like to point out at the outset, E1 is related directly to use variances, not dimensional relief. In terms of what I believe the church photograph was used for was purposes of general characteristics of the neighborhood. It can be used for that purposes. For purposes of this application and the statute you have in front of you, it would be E2 that the board would have to consider as a dimensional variance. E1 relates directly to use variances.
Okay.
Just to clarify, Derek, my comment was in keeping with the character of the neighborhood, not necessarily.
Yeah, I just noted that keeping with the character of the neighborhood, yet, you know, there are, the 41 is drawn on here, the variances are drawn on this picture. No?
They are. I'm just letting you know that the purposes of that language, E1 is specific for use variances,
Okay.
not for dimensional.
Okay.
Commercial or like something like that type of.
If there's an application before you requesting a special use variance, that would be something the board would consider. Here, it's just dimensional relief
Right.
that's being.
Okay.
used.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Just regarding the building height, you're proposing 41 feet, where 35 feet is permitted. The narrative mentions it's for the oversized fire apparatus vehicles. It doesn't mention the the cupola, it doesn't mention the siren. It doesn't mention the dormitory above it. Can you just talk to me about what the size of the apparatuses are? I know you said the height of the bay was 14, maybe the ceiling was 18. But why the additional, the 6 feet can't be directly rated only to the apparatus size?
The door, we were trying to match the existing, the 12, but the members basically said, you're crazy putting in a 12-foot door. We need a 14-foot should we get bigger apparatus. Okay, so now we've got 0 being the slab. We've got a 14-foot high door. Usually there's a high lift on those doors, and you'll need all of a couple feet for that door to clear any structure. So at 16 feet, we got ductwork that's going to supply. And between the steel girders to keep it column free, and then the steel decking, that puts us up at 20 feet. So we're 20 feet from floor to floor. There's not a lot of fluff there, but the driving factor, when Chief first came to me, he said, well, we don't care so much about headroom in the mezzanine, but you're not going to go up there and expect to duct down at a 6-foot ceiling. So we opted to make the core area, not at a limit of 7.6, we went to 8 foot with the concrete topper, and then another good 8 feet before we would hit our head on the beam going parallel with the mezzanine. So it's all structure related, given the heights that we need, because it's not, the spans that we're creating, you're not looking at a 12-foot span. You're looking at least a couple feet or 18 inches at minimum, plus the concrete to support that floor above.
Okay, so can I say the narrative should maybe reflect that it's the height of the dormitory as well as the size of the apparatus?
No, the dormitory height is.
It has no bearing on the height of the building.
I'm sorry?
Are you saying it has no bearing on the height of the building? Because the narrative says that the hardship is being sought because of the oversized fire apparatus vehicles. But there's a dormitory that sits above it.
Yeah, that's normal height. That is normal height. It's not excessive. It's basically from the minimum floor that we can provide with the fire ratings that we need. It's basically an 8'6" ceiling. It's normal.
So if I'm understanding you correctly, it's the 14-foot vehicle, the fire ratings and the material between the
Yes.
top of the roof of that, then the normal size dormitory above that, then the required roof for the thing. The combination of those factors is what generates the 6 feet, not necessarily the vehicle itself
Yeah.
alone. It's the
That
combination of
was-
those three.
That's correct. That's
Okay.
correct.
Okay.
You know,
Thank you.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
keeping it simple, to make the mezzanine workable. And if you notice that we didn't span from left to right, we've brought in the roof as narrow as we could in the core to keep that ultimate ridge the same. And then the other ones came into being because we could control the height once we had that ridge set and make
Okay.
it a little bit playful, rather than going with a decent pitch and going up another 6 feet just to go from. It's all relative.
So are you saying there is an alternative to that pitch, or you're saying there's not?
No, we're at an absolute minimum because
Okay.
of the way the roofs are and the.
Okay. So I'll agree the front and the side variances are modest, if minimal, but you're asking for the variance of 27.5 and 16.5. It looks like they're basically for optional. They're not for safety, but they're aesthetic or cosmetic. Is that accurate?
We are using just straight out canopies held in with cabling. So it's just a roof and the watershed from that doorway. It's thin, it comes out. If you see that right there, it's hung by 2 stems, and that's a flat surface that comes out. It's about as minimally invasive as you can get.
And then can you what's the purpose of it?
It's one of the main doors rather than it's protection. It's
Protection.
protection, it's rain protection.
Okay.
Those things are contained with gutter systems so that water dissipates.
Protection's good, thank you. The parking, you said the overflow is St. Clair's. Do you have a formal agreement with St. Clair's for the overflow parking?
No, it's just a verbal.
We also have parking on Crandall Avenue too. That's the handicap spot that we currently have has always been on Crandall Avenue. And then there's probably another 8 spots on Crandall Avenue.
So of the spots you have, can I get a clarification from somebody? So can you tell me how parking spaces work in relation to the street versus the property itself? Presently, like, do they have 13 spaces and they include street spaces today, or?
Not totally sure I understand your question.
How do the street spaces factor into the requirement of the actual property?
I don't believe they do at all.
No, they don't.
Yeah.
I think Paul's speaking in practicality rather than letter of the law here.
Yeah,
Okay,
they factor into our ability to evaluate a variance, but they don't factor into the
And then.
letter of the law.
And then I can also say, there's gonna be parking in front of that district bay. And then there's gonna be parking in front of the, where we keep the boat and the jet skis and stuff like that. To be able to park in front of those good.
If I could, and Diego, correct me if I'm wrong here, but, and Mr. Solicitor, please step in if I'm out of bounds here, but one of the things in the past that we've evaluated when we're looking at parking is, and evaluating, particularly in a case like this where somebody's asking for less parking than what's required, is the parking being an offset for impervious surface. Or we're asking them to reduce their parking, so they reduce their impervious surface. In this case, they're asking for a variance for an increase of impervious surface. If we're asking them to meet the parking requirements on sites, it would further increase the amount of impervious surface that they'd be asking for in their variance if we were going that direction.
Correct. That would be a direct, I guess, impact of that.
It would be
that
a direct
request.
impact of going that. So by allowing the variance in the parking, we're decreasing or offsetting the resulting variance that they're asking for in their impervious surface request.
And I'll just add one thing, the DEM has a regulation that you cannot park over more than 25% of the leach field. If that leach field wasn't there, then we probably could get another 2 or 3 spots, so.
Yeah, and I noticed the leach field set purposefully in that entryway for that reason.
Yeah,
so that nobody's gonna
exactly.
park in the entryway.
Yeah.
so in seeking relief, should we consider just the street or should we consider St. Clair's?
Well, I think when I went over this with Marty, the zoning official, because we can't fit all the spaces on our property, that's why we're seeking the variance.
No, I get it.
We're, we don't have a formal agreement with the St. Clair's, but they allow them to do it. Allow them to overflow park there.
It just, I actually understand the street argument better than the St. Clair's argument because you have no agreement. The street, the St. Clair's argument seems to be nothing. If nothing, I mean, it's nothing. And, the street argument is stronger if I'm, how would you consider this on the application?
I don't believe that there is a way to, I don't think in the typical review process, street parking is considered as an option. I think it's typically left up to the board's discretion, if anything. That would be my gut reaction if you want to consider it.
Up to our ability to weigh the evidence one way or the other.
Okay. No more questions? Yeah, absolutely.
Not that this is gonna change anybody's mind. This fire department's been there for a long time. We've had 4 spots on the left side of that building. We're adding an addition with 4 bunks or 4 rooms up top. If we were lucky enough to get 4 volunteers that wanted to stay there all the time, which I don't think will happen, you've got 4 new spots in the back, which they could use. And leaving the spots that are there on the side of the building is going to be no different than what we're dealing with today. I don't think that I don't believe it's going to cause any more of a problem going forward, having a larger building, because of those extra spots on the backside. And as Chief mentioned, you've got 2 of the 3 new bays that are not going to have emergency vehicles needing to pull out of. The other 3 bays will. So there's spots there that the firemen will know they can pull up in front of the district bay. And the only thing that could be in there would be the tractor, no big deal. They would know they can pull into the other fire department bay in front of that door. So those spots will give you an additional 4 that we're not counting as legitimate parking spots. So if that helps in the discussion at all, I'd appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for your presentation. I think it's a really great improvement to the building. It's attractive and seems like it is going to serve a lot of different purposes for the district, which is positive. I know Musquamacut over the last few years has become very, very popular. And we have massive volume of people going to Musquamacut, the state beach, the town beach, all of the beaches. And I think this is a valuable resource for the town of Westerly and Musquamacut to have emergency vehicles, emergency personnel. Do you have any data on the number of calls that you have taken over the past couple of years in regards to, I know people have, I know there's rescues and
We average 180 calls.
for medical and fire combined?
The only medical calls will go on is cardiac arrest, somebody pulled out of the ocean, CPR, so
Mhm.
WAC takes care of it.
Okay. Yeah, and I know you've used the boat often to read about some things on the newspaper, and I think that that's very helpful. I like the idea of having rooms there for that purpose. You have calls or somebody there. That's very helpful. Time is of the essence. So I think that's a really clever addition. As far as the setbacks, they do seem somewhat minimal. The impervious surface, that gives a little bit of pause. I know we're, we're near the water, concerned with the environment. In that area, though, I understand, the property and how the building takes up a large portion of it. So overall, I think it's a really great project, and thank you for your presentation.
Very nice presentation, nice layout of the building, coming from a former captain of the fire department, son of a chief and grandson of a lieutenant. Yeah, I kind of get a lot of this. So it looks really, really good. One district over, okay? However, time for me to move the punch bowl, or at least think about it. There's a few things. One, in the application, there seemed to be a couple of things missing. Has anybody gotten anything on that? The tax certificate and the stamp survey? When we look at the files, they weren't there. They're not there. It comes in as
Stamp survey's there,
no. Oh, okay.
The stamp survey is part of
part of the design package.
it's like 4 or
Okay,
5.
so it's buried in the design package?
Yep.
Okay, all right. That's cool. Earlier. Good job. Earlier, we were talking about auxiliary and ancillary vehicles, tractors, gators, that kind of thing, jet skis or whatever. Fuel storage for those?
We have stored.
Fuel storage.
Yeah. We have a couple of.
If you could just step up to the mic, sorry.
Right now, we have a hazard material container, metal.
A metal-
That we keep a couple 5-gallon.
Okay,
Fuel.
all right,
containers
no,
in.
I was just wondering what quantity of fuel was kept.
Yeah, not a lot.
Okay, all right, excellent. Let's see. stormwater management. I know we talked about it and we've got it covered, not a problem. Okay, do we have the empirical numbers?
Empirical numbers for,
In other words, we anticipate so much runoff, so much is going to be moving, whether it's migrating or coming down off the roof in a 25-year storm or a 100-year storm. How much are we looking at? Where's it going?
okay, well, at this point, it's a master plan. I didn't do a full drainage report. A full drainage design that wasn't necessary for this submission.
Mhm.
But the idea is the roof runoff is considered clean, so we don't have to worry about cleaning that water. But the runoff from the parking lot, it's going to be directed into what they call an isolator row, where all of the sands and stuff would settle out, and that would handle what they call the first flush. And then anything more than an inch of rain will get diverted to the other chambers, which are the infiltration, which will be clean water. I've also incorporated, I don't think there's a detail for it, but I'm going to add a detail for a hooded catch basin. So before it enters into this infiltration area, all the oils won't be able to carry over into the underground system.
Okay. But right now, we just don't know how much is migrating towards those catch basins.
I don't have a
Okay,
flow
Nope,
rate that.
that's fine.
Yeah.
Greenscape. We're very, very big at asking all of our people to spruce up the neighborhood and so forth and so on whenever they do a project. I noted that the 2 trees out front are marked for removal and not necessarily relocation, but I wasn't sure if looking at some of the other details that went up on the screen, were there planter boxes out by the sidewalk? Or anything like that?
I don't believe so.
Okay, so we're taking trees away, but we're not doing anything else?
No, we're not. We could add a couple of street trees along there. There is that memorial that's on the
Right.
at the corner of Crandall and Second. That is currently a flowered or landscaped area.
Okay. The basement is shown as a reference on the drawing. Is the existing basement being extended under the footprint for the new addition?
No.
And there's no work going on in the basement?
Other than mechanical upgrades and ductwork, and it's basically gonna be non-habitable.
Okay. All right, no, I was just wondering if that basement was going to be extended, that we would have potentially an open excavation, so site security fencing was going to be a question. So I'm glad that that is off the table. Impervious surfaces, we talked about already. I'm a little apprehensive about that. Parking can also be an issue. Most of the year, quite frankly, it's probably not going to be a problem. But during peak times of the year, when people are all in their houses getting visited by their friends, spots on the street quite probably aren't going to be there, or they'll be at a premium. And then there's also the concern with firefighters parking over at St. Clair's, trying to get over to the firehouse. I just would hate to see somebody get pasted. There's been lots of near hits in the past, and that is a little bit of a rough thing. The cupola. The zoning office flagged Ring Road lumber on their cupola because it was busting the vertical elevation to the tune of a couple of inches. Remember we talked about that? So I'm wondering here, where we do have a cupola, and it's not just an architectural feature, and it's significant. So that caused me to look at the drawing, and where it says the plate height for the second floor is at 4511. So what my question is what is above the sill plate above the second floor, underneath those roof lines?
We have, it was 6 feet on top of the 35, brought us up to 41. That was our first variance, and then basically from the ridge up to the top of the cupola is 10 feet and approximately 4 foot square.
Mm-hmm.
I
think on the ring one, I had the same misconception. It wasn't the cupola, because I thought it was as well. It was the peak on the other side. So the cupola was on one side, the peak was on the other. I thought it was the cupola, but
Okay.
it was the peak on the other roof. It was
All right.
inside.
But at that point, we were looking at a bust a
Well, we were
couple
look-
of inches,
Yes,
not.
exactly, right. But it
More
was
than
the
10
peak on the
feet.
roof, not
Right.
the cupola that's
Okay.
the issue.
There is a note on the floor plate, one of the sheets, and you mentioned it earlier. There's a decon area.
Yeah,
Is this just casual decon of turnouts and bunker gear? Or is it decon of other things that may have been exposed to something? And if that's the case, what's the agent? Where does it go? Right, okay,
The decon is gonna be guys coming back from a call, take a shower, throw your gear in the washer, wash it.
okay,
It's not gonna be a hazmat decon for situations in the district.
all right. Thank you. So pretty much, I guess that's it. There's some drains and things that are shown in the decon shower areas. Are there any drains in the equipment bay?
no,
So
No.
whatever goes on in there just gets washed out the door? To the street?
you can't put drains in. The,
No, I didn't ask you if you could or if you couldn't. I just asked if there were any in the design or the intent.
There is.
Yes, in the existing.
oh,
Okay.
I'm sorry.
In the,
So-
the newer bays, are they putting those in and gonna twin them into the existing ones in the other bays?
I was told we couldn't.
Okay, fair enough. All right, thank you.
All right. First and foremost, great to see that you guys are upgrading the on-site water treatment plant. I don't know if anybody noticed that, but denitrification system. So kudos to you guys for getting that done. So that's a plus. And upgrading the size of it as well for the personnel there. So that's great. A couple of questions. Looking at the paving out there, we got a couple of different pavement details for the heavy duty sections, typical pavement cuts and the rest. I'm assuming all the heavy duty is out in the front, in front of the new bays for the trucks coming in and out for the weight of the trucks, support all of that. Is the typical pavement for that rear off of the north side of it where the 4 parking spots are and the single man door is? Or east side, that east elevation, sorry, east elevation. So that's the typical pavement. Okay. So I have a question then regarding that. Is there any possibility when we start talking about impervious surfaces, and I know permeable pavement's off the table here, when we start talking about the neighborhood, trying to bring this into compliance with the neighborhood, which I think Paul, your design looks great. It really helps bring this brick monolith into something that looks, more akin to the neighborhood and everything else. Have you considered doing a gravel base out in that area as opposed to pavement in that rear parking lot area? For no other reason than, you drive around that area, there's a ton of the properties that have, gravel shell driveways parking in those areas. And I know for trucks, for equipment, if you're going to be using anything, that is an absolute no-go for.
Yeah,
You
if I could
guys,
just speak to
but-
that, that did get brought up in a conversation, putting gravel in the wintertime, trying to plow that. And then especially the guys
And then
that are
bring
gonna
it
be
back.
staying there with ice concerns and stuff, it's gonna be a lot more safer if it's pavement.
Okay, understood. I just wanted to ask a question because I was trying to think in terms of ways you can reduce your impervious pavement or impervious areas and keep it in line with the neighborhood. That would be one way you could go about doing it. All right. Or even just border it. You know what I mean? If you can border it so that you have the edges of the parking that's gravel, and now you have an area that when you do plow, you're putting your snow up on it, it becomes an area for, your snow melt to go down a little bit easier without killing all the grass after you've salted the parking lot and everything else. So,
That's actually a good idea.
so that might be a way to put a border around the edge of it. It might drop your numbers by, I don't know, 4 or 5% and make it a little bit more palatable. to get you into a different range without running into the problem of putting it between where they're parking and how they're entering the space and maybe not interfering with plowing as much. Out into it.
Just one last item. Great reference to St. Clair's Church. St. Clair's was gone with the wind in 1938, thanks to Hurricane Edith. And it was rebuilt by 1940. Pretty much what we're seeing is what we're getting. And is at least to current date, 88 years ago. I would wager that that was in place before the current requirement and restrictions were. So while I appreciate the character of the neighborhood reference, but as far as the existing height that we're looking at right now,
Oh, no, I don't.
that would be an
I had nothing
anomaly
to do
to
with-
fall out of it.
I had nothing to do with the height. I just meant the
Yeah.
character, the easements of the roof
Right.
line and everything else looks a lot like outside of the, the shingle, I always forget it, Paul, what are they called? Shaker Shack? Is that the name of the shingles down there? Outside of the fact you're not putting Shaker Shack shingles on the outside of it, the lines of the roof appear similar to the other houses down there when you look around the neighborhood. I will differ from my colleague over here when it comes to the street trees. One of the things I did look at is you're putting a second story on this building. What does that do to the lines, people's views down there? So I actually took a trip down there today because I was curious what happens when you're down there. And there is a massive row of evergreens along Second Street. So nobody's view of looking from your property past that building gets impeded towards the ocean because there's a giant row of trees that blocks it. So if anything, doesn't change anybody's view other than the view of your backyard and your two lovely shacks that sit in the backyard right now and the boat and the trailer that were out there that I drove by today. So from that perspective, it only improves the view. So I guess losing the two trees, if nothing else, from the street side of things, it improves people's view down because they can, at least when you're standing out in front there, you can actually see the ocean looking all the way down the road.
And I actually want to put hydrangeas in the front
Mhm.
section of the building, in between the sidewalk that comes up.
Okay. I did have a question about the front, and I think a couple of people have brought it up about the roof line in the front of the slope, because in looking at the architectural plans, the rendering and the design drawings, I think I had a little bit of a misconception about how that front roof line looks. So if I'm looking at, you can go right back to that elevation on the side. If I'm looking at this, I'm looking at something that, again, I'm looking at just a cut of it. When I'm looking at the design drawings, I'm envisioning just a extension over the entranceway, similar to what it looks like now, where you have an extension over the entranceway. But when we look at that three-dimensional rendering that you have up at the beginning of the architectural plans, it shows that extending sort of,
Yeah,
again, here, it shows it just over the entranceway on here, but on the other drawing, it shows it extending with the columns further out, not up against the side of the building the way it's shown here. But on that first drawing, it shows it extending out. So I just want to make sure I understand when we're approving this variance, it truly is just that one entranceway with the two columns is the only part that's extending into the variance area, and it's not anything beyond that. Because if I look at the very first page of the architectural drawing set, I think it's the architectural drawing set, or it might be
yeah.
one of the other ones. It shows it from an angle, that one right there. Oh, go back, right there. So if you look at it from that angle and zoom in on the corner, it makes it appear that extends out beyond, right there at the corner of the entrance, that the columns extend beyond the entrance of the building in that corner and stick out further. So right there at the front of the building,
Oh,
see what I mean right there? So that was the part I was having a disconnect with, the architectural drawings and the designs didn't quite match up. So I'm assuming it's just the rendering here that's off and not.
I don't even think it's the rendering. I think it's the way you're looking at it. It's deceiving. You have an overhang on the south side of the building.
yeah,
That pole is actually on the south side. It's not going out to the front.
that's correct. That's correct.
If you look at the other photo you have, I think it was one back. Yeah, you can see the roof comes out in the center.
Right.
Push that. two sides, where that columns is all the way up. I'm not sure what the pole is in the next picture, unless it's on the side.
Yeah, that was the part I just was confused because it made it appear as if that entranceway extended the entire length of the building as opposed
No,
to just the way it's
no.
shown on the design drawings.
That, you can see it better in this picture.
Yeah, that's what I anticipated looking at the engineering drawings.
Yeah.
When I looked at the other one, I was a bit confused because it looked to me to be a much bigger, wider view, which didn't make a lot of sense because there wasn't any structure
Right.
underneath it to protect.
How that developed is when we started, the banding has with the white background and not enough shade on it. The banding is sculpted. It's just not one flat plane.
Mhm.
And so from door to door to door, we have this band that comes shooting through. And once we started doing the two doors on the south side, then the flap out front, yes, gives it a better appeal, but at the end of the day, the eave is up.
Yeah, yeah.
It's up quite high,
Right.
maybe as much as 12 feet. So you're not being protected. So bringing that canopy right over to protect you from the rain, that's what that's doing. It's kind of, it's shortened up inside. And by the way, that does hit the top of the ramp, the 5-foot ring, so it's protected.
And can we rotate around to the other side of the building where the stairs are that the other variance is for? I don't think they're on one of the renderings. I think they're just on the
Right,
elevation view.
yeah.
So that's not the primary entrance in and out of that building, right? That's the emergency exit in and out. So the intent of that is not for everyday use for personnel in and out. They're gonna use
No.
the staircase that's inside the building. So that's not gonna be something your neighbor adjacent is gonna see people accessing towels hanging off of it or anything else like that. This is not gonna be, we're not gonna grill on the outside of this with people out there cooking hot dogs on it. I asked all this because, I look at this and we're talking about, envisioning, attracting young firefighters to be in this house. So I just want to make sure we're not going too far overboard in what we're trying to attract and how we're getting them there. So that's fine. If this is, designated as an emergency exit, now we're talking about something that the variance that we're really scheduling for is an emergency access as a secondary egress from the top floor above an area where you're storing fire equipment, emergency equipment, and to your point, small amounts of fuel for that equipment. Now we have a reason for that variance that backs up why that staircase has to be in place where it is.
Yeah, yeah.
Just have one question. Could we go back to the rendering that showed the view of the building from the street?
From
From Crandall? One moment.
Get the angle.
Maybe the one from an angle. There we go. Is that a flagpole? And does it? Okay.
I told him to look.
So I was wondering if that was also a clever way to
That's,
disguise like a radio antenna or something
I
that.
told him.
Oh, is that-
It's the
Thank
flag.
Oh, that's SketchUp, isn't it?
Well, Memorial Day weekend.
Is that SketchUp? Because SketchUp loves to add flagpoles to every building. Yes.
The first
Yeah.
time I saw that, I said, "Paul."
Sorry.
Um,
Oh, yeah.
no, I get it. No, it's good. And then, I have one other question. And now I've lost track of my other question. Hang on a second. The corner side yard setback, could you just dimensionally show us where that is exactly on there again?
So it's right where this other entryway is. This small area here.
Mhm.
Again, that little sliver over the existing entry into the apparatus room. Talk about
On
this.
the, can you put it up on the engineering drawing? I just want to see what that 16.5 foot proposed distance was. That was the only one I was having trouble locating on the drawing.
Yeah, I'm gonna zoom in. Oh, here it is. Right here.
That's that one right there?
Yeah.
Okay, and that's just because of that bump out right there is all that's causing that?
Yes.
Okay. And the reason for that bump out again?
That's gonna be the main entrance to the new addition.
Okay,
And there's also another covered entry right here into the meeting room, right?
Yeah,
It's
that's the,
actually into the apparatus.
Oh, after, okay.
Is that just an eyebrow over the entrance?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's not even something at the street level, it's just a,
it's the, yeah, it's the
It's just
cane
an
in the
overhang.
front. It's the overhang over the
it's a
thing. Yep.
streamlined channel that's got integrated gutter system. It's a canopy, real canopy.
What was driving the 16, is this one here, because it's 16 and a half feet.
It's the front one, right?
It's this one right here.
That's what I thought. Okay.
This one here is 17 feet. So
Yeah, so it's the existing entrance door that's there now, which does not have a cover over it. So it's adding a protective cover over the existing door as part of the architectural, as you're redoing that building, that's what's causing that dimensional variance there.
yes.
And,
Okay.
and also source of lighting.
And a source of lighting. Yeah, well, that was gonna be my next question on this. Thank you. Thank you for saying source of lighting, because that was the one thing I had on this. Obviously, we're not at the point yet of having a lighting plan, for this. One thing I noted when I was out there is, all the lighting right now that I saw out there is all on the building itself. Is there any plans for any additional lighting, or is it gonna continue to be lighting on the new building? Same general, I don't want to say lighting plan, but yeah, thank you. That you have now in terms of illuminating the parking area, the immediate areas of the bays? Okay, that was gonna be my question. So we're not gonna have spotlights on the cupola,
We're gonna
anything
have
like that?
integrated, mimicking some of the trim dimensional stuff, where we can, accent
But it'll be-
lighting, but very subtle.
So
Subtle the way it is now.
Where you saw that side lighting.
Yes.
On the apparatus, it's gonna be,
Yeah,
they're
'cause-
gonna be the cans and go up with that.
Yeah, because right now it's basically above the bays, the globes above the bays, it's pretty subdued, similar to that style of lighting on the new building as well.
Yep.
Like, that was the other thing I didn't see in the architectural rendering was,
But no
Those
parking
lights.
lot lights, anything like that.
Okay.
all dark sky compliant.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they'll be recessed right into the
Yeah,
building
okay.
for the most
Yeah.
part, LEDs right in, and, I haven't. showed them
I
cut sheets yet.
we're trying to be self-conscious of the neighborhood. It's bad enough when you get a call at 3 in. And then you gotta back the truck in and so it's. We're trying to make it as subdued as possible. Don't want, a bunch of lighting of the building lit up.
all right, so one of the things I just want to point out, our zoning official put together their memorandum, which is part of the package that we reviewed. And as we talked about it tonight, it says within the package here that it should be noted that Musquamacut Fire District has an agreement with St. Clair's to use the parking lot across the street for overflow parking. As we discussed tonight, that's a verbal agreement that you guys have had in place with St. Clair's, not a written formal agreement. So just for clarity's sake and for the record, because it's in the record now, I just want to make sure we're clear on that for the record, that it's a verbal agreement that you guys have had in place with them. Because I know we've had other plans that have been before us where we've had and required an actual written agreement for residential parking. So I want to make sure that that difference is very clear here this evening. Did anyone else have any other questions for the applicant? Diego?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I'm not sure if I would direct this question to the applicant, but it might be my recommendation that one of the board members does, just because it's included in the administrative memo. Just with regard to the landscape plan, as per requirements for major land development, a landscape plan is required. It might be recommended that one of you ask if it's the applicant's intention to waive or defer this requirement.
Does anyone want to ask the question, or I can certainly ask the question? It's the applicant's intention to waive or defer the requirement for a landscape plan.
Yes, we're trying to, we will seek a waiver.
Say that again?
Yes, we'd like to seek a waiver for that, a landscape plan.
Okay. So that is something we will see when you come back for your final plans submittal is a landscape plan that will show what it ends up being, whether it's hydrangeas along the front or whatever that might be. Okay. Are there any other questions from members of the board on this plan? Okay. Are there any other comments from any members of the public?
Motion to close the public hearing.
Any comments or questions from members of the board? Okay, hearing none, we have a motion to close the public hearing. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Hearing none, motion carries 7-0. Okay, members of the board.
In favor of moving forward with the project.
Okay, well, before we do that, first thing, and that's probably good because I'm looking at Mr. Solicitor over there nodding his head saying, okay, yep, pause and think. We have to go through, because this is a unified review, we have to go through and make sure on the record, we go through for the variances that are proposed first, and discuss and ensure that we are in agreement for what the variances are and whether or not we feel that the applicant has met their burden in providing the evidence here this evening and in their application for meeting the criteria that we discussed. So, sir.
And I just wanted to add just procedurally that if the board does choose to vote on the dimensional relief, when it does, it's two separate motions. It's first, it's for the variances for dimensional relief. And if they're granted conditionally upon the second motion that can be made regarding the land development review.
Okay. So we have in front of us now 6 variance requests, and I'm going to go through them very quickly for everyone to make sure that we're very clear on what we're talking about tonight. Again, the applicant went through them. We've talked about them, each one of them, and I want to go through each one of them again from the planning officials memorandum, so we're all clear. And I'm going to take them from the bottom up because I think the last one is the one we'll probably have the most discussion on. The first one is about parking. The requirement for this particular property is 13 parking spaces. There are 7 existing. The applicant is proposing to have 9. So that's a variance of 4 parking spaces that they're asking for 4 less parking spaces on the property than what would be typically required. As the applicant has indicated, they have street parking and a verbal agreement with the adjacent property owner that provides additional spaces. They also have additional area on the site, while not designated as official spaces, can accommodate additional vehicles. Dual use areas, if you want to call them that could accommodate additional spaces on the site. So those are items that they've identified to us tonight for those particular concerns relative to parking. The other, and I'll go through them unless anyone wants me to stop. I'll stop. Yeah, we can do that. Sure. So with that, is there any issues that anyone wants to further address, or if I misspoke or misaligned what I just said?
Do you want
Understanding?
we could do this by a motion for each?
I don't
Say-
know. I think we could
We don't need a
just,
motion, okay.
we could just do a,
Do it. All right.
what do you call it? I
Yeah,
can just poll it.
but the
if we want.
parking and
If we're in agreement.
and the
that
seasonal, it's fine.
Summarize, yeah, if we're in agreement, I can poll the board if we're in agreement with what I said, but if anyone has anything they want to add to that, please let me know.
I'd prefer we keep the verbal agreement with the church out of it altogether. I just don't think it's necessary. I don't think we want it on our on record. I'm perfectly happy moving forward without any mention of that whatsoever.
Oh, yeah, no, and
Or
I'm
any
not,
consideration given to that whatsoever.
yeah, I'm not necessarily giving any consideration to one or the other. I'm just laying out the evidence that the applicant has provided us this evening as for your consideration, and then I'm asking the board, are you in agreement with what I provided as the evidence that's been provided this evening? And are you in agreement with the either in agreement with granting that variance or not in agreement with it, so I can pull the board so we can kind of move forward with each one as we go. So if there's something I missed that they provided or something that I misspoke that they provided, that's kind of what I was getting at.
May. I just feel that making motions on it and it just clarifies it and locks it on the record. It's very, very clear. So with regard to parking variances, I would make a motion that we I'm in agreement, we approve this variance, given that they have dual use, given that they have at least 8 parking spots on Crandall Avenue.
I was gonna say, why don't, I agree with kind of Matt, why don't we pull the board first and then make a motion?
I agree with that also.
So first off, I guess, let me just ask, is there anybody who feels that that wants to add anything to the parking discussion relative to what the applicant provided? Okay. Are you
I'm in agreement.
accepting of the variance?
Accepting the agreement as laid out, yes.
Okay, so. Down this side, Derek?
Can we clarify the number of parking spaces on the street that you said you had access to that were?
Well, you can see. If you look at the floor.
Yep.
You can see that our handicap spot is right here on the corner of Crandall and Second.
Yep.
So there's a spot there.
Yep.
In front of that is where I usually always park.
Yeah.
And then there's 3 more, going up to that driveway.
Yep.
On the other side of Second Street, there's another 3 spaces.
And is there any signage there that says, residential parking permit only or anything?
No, all the beaches. And no. But the church, fire station, they're all.
Chief, there is a sign for the handicap.
No, yeah.
There's a sign for the handicap.
Yeah,
parking.
it's and painted on.
Yeah.
Barry? Morris?
So we're just clarifying at this point,
Just
right?
clarifying,
We're
yeah.
not, we're not passing any.
We're not passing anything. I just want to know if
No,
you're
understood.
in agreement with
Understood.
that so that we can kind of go through each one of them. And then if we're in agreement with all of them, we can have a motion for the variances. Are you good? Okay. Yes. Oh, yes, Patrick, I'm sorry. Yes. Any questions, Patrick? I just realized, Patrick, I did not ask you for your comments.
That's all right. I'm
Oh
in
my God,
total,
speak up, Patrick, and just yell at me. Dear God.
that's okay. I'm in total agreement with this project. My colleagues here have been very thorough in their questioning, and I think they've done an excellent presentation. So not that I get to vote, but I'd be in support of it. Thank you.
Oh, my goodness, Patrick. Oh, my God. Yes, absolutely. I am so sorry. It's been a long night. All right, the side yard setback, the requirement is 15. The existing is 19.5. The requested, or the proposed rather, is 13.5, which is a variance of 1.5 from the requirement. So this side yard setback is required for the principal structure. While the existing structure, the proposed addition is going to be 19.5 from the side lot. This is for the proposed landing and exterior staircase on the north side of the building. It's going to be 13.5 feet. The applicant indicated this is an emergency staircase to be provided for the mezzanine level and the second floor of the building. It's not a primary entrance or egress, but an emergency staircase to provide a secondary means of egress from those 2 locations within the building. Does anyone, did I misspeak or misidentify anything relative to that? Okay, hearing none. Do you have any issues with
No
that?
issues, I'm in agreement with it.
Okay. All right. Oh, Patrick, see, I did it again. I keep getting to the end, I see Chloe and I stop. Okay. Corner side yard setback, the requirement is 22.5 feet. The existing building is 19.8, so it's already non-conforming. The proposed is 16.5. Again, this is the corner side yard setback. This is already in non-conforming condition. It is for the left side covered entrance. That'll be 16.5 feet from the property line. The right side covered entrance will be 17 feet from the property line. The applicant indicated that both of these covers on this entrance, as well as the cover on the front entrance that we'll get to in a moment, were, I believe Perry's question and Derek's question, were intended for protection from the elements for the workers at the facility. And they are, to Morris's, not structures that are set at the surface, but only overhangs in those areas that are covers. Did I misspeak on any of that? I want to start with Patrick this time, so I don't forget. Patrick, do you have any issues with that particular requested variance? Morris?
Given its intended use for its protection, I have no issues.
Okay. The next variance is the front yard setback. Again, this is a requirement of 30 feet. The existing building is 31.5. The proposed is 27.5. The variance being requested is a variance of 2.5 feet. That is for the west facing covered entry. Again, that is for the overhang and the two supporting posts for that. As the applicant indicated, that is provided for the main entranceway for protection from the elements for the workers and visitors to the building, because that is the main entranceway for visitors and their, I believe you call it a, not conference area, but meeting room area for the building. Did I misspeak on that and their intent for that portion of it and the requirements for that variance? Yeah. Okay,
No issue given its intent.
No exceptions taken.
okay, hearing none. The next is the max building height. The maximum building height required is 35 feet. The existing building is 18 feet and the proposed is 41. That is a variance requested of 6 feet. The building height is measured again from the average existing grade at the perimeter of the structure to the roof peak. So it does not include the cupola, if I said that correctly.
That's correct.
Of the building, but just to the peak of the roof line. The need for the roof line to be at 41 feet, as Derek asked and we discussed with the applicant, is the new bay is intended to have a 14-foot door to accommodate the potential of a ladder truck in the future, as well as the requirements above that for the fire protection between the bay area and the living quarters above it, the height of the living quarters, and then the minimum height required for the slope of the roof to keep it at the minimum slope required architecturally for the roof to shed
Yep.
snow, correct?
Yep.
Okay, did I misspeak on any of that? Members of the board, in terms of what the applicant has provided us? Does anyone have any issues with the variance that's being requested for the building height?
If this was a home, it'd be different, but for a fire station, we're good.
No issues.
I'm conflicted.
You what?
He's conflicted.
Okay. Okay. The last is the maximum impervious surface. The maximum impervious surface required is 35% of the area of the site. The existing property is 34.7. The proposed is 64%. So it's obviously requiring a variance. The reasoning behind the 64% is that the building itself will double in size. The parking area in the rear of the property that will be added on as impervious surface behind the rear of the building, per the applicant, is paved for safety reasons for the wintertime for the firefighters in the dormitory, because that's their primary access, is that rear door, and they're parking for the dormitory area. The applicant has expressed the possibility of providing a border around that of a more pervious nature to reduce that number when they come back at final plan to get that number lower than 64%. So the hope, what we will see at final plan will be a number less than 64. But right now, we're asking to approve a variance at 64% based on the current plan set that's in front of us. Have I misspoken at all in terms of what the applicant's plans are, their requirements, their reasoning behind why they can't provide additional impervious surface? And their need for the 64%. Okay.
Yeah, I'd like to see it reduced. And if I may add, we talked about plowing, and I understand the crushed stone is problematic, but there are these pavers that they use that you could grow grass in, that they're not totally, you know. They use them at the bed and breakfast on right by the river there. What's that road? Yes, Margin Street, thank you. They use them there for their parking area, so they're not impervious. They do allow some infiltration, but they can be plowed, they can be that, so I'd like to see this reduced. I mean, this is, and pretty much where you're at too, the water is gonna stay in the area. So any improvement we can do here, that's where I'm leaning. That's it.
I'm fine.
Yeah, I agree with your understanding of it. I also it would be helpful to see this impervious surface, more impervious surface on this lot.
I'm conflicted. I think we can do better. I'd be interested in seeing what an alternate approach could be. It is a high profile kind of project, so we should be trying to hit all the marks we can.
Patrick?
In my experience, I think that the gravel services and whatever, they're just a maintenance nightmare. I would like to see some of the paver and the grass things around that I've seen. That might be a nice alternative, but I'm not opposed. I don't want to see the project killed over this issue.
If I could, Mr. Nena, if, again, back of the envelope here, because we're sitting here at pretty high level. If you were looking at this and doing your best percentage wise, and I'm not holding you to a number here at a public hearing while we're sitting here deliberating, but if you were to make a guess on a border or an additional zone around that parking area that could be turned into a more of an impervious surface, what type of percentage do you think you might be able to, or what type of square footage do you think you could gain
Well-
that would get you down a percentage?
I mean, we could look at what I've done in the past on projects is put pervious pavers where the parking spaces are and then pave where the main travelways are. So the 4 spaces, you could probably do pervious pavers. We can look at that.
Okay.
Rather than do a border.
Okay.
Well, I mean, again, we're collecting all of this runoff. Right now, it all runs into the street and we're collecting not only from the roof, but from existing and what we're proposing, but we can look at that. I can look at that with a client.
Okay, I think that would be helpful if we could,
Yeah.
if we could knock
So-
that number down. 64 is a big number.
So
I
4.
mean, that's,
Yeah.
you know, when we're looking at variances, you know, for anything, it doesn't, you know, we're talking about every other variance, we're talking a matter of a couple of feet, you know, and it's a couple of feet that, you know, we can look at, we can justify and say it's this. You know, when we start talking about impervious surfaces and it's double the requirement, that becomes, you know, I don't want to say problematic, 'cause it's not problematic because as Mr. Nana can tell you, you can engineer your way around everything. There's always an engineering solution. It doesn't always mean it's the best solution, but it means you can figure something out to make it work. But if we can also figure out a way to make it work, it means also there's 10 different ways we can figure out to make it work. And if we can figure out a way and get that percentage down, you know, we can try to do something that makes everybody a little bit happier. Yes, absolutely, sir.
Tony. Go through the expense of putting in these rain gardens. We have a calculation as to what that capacity does for that 64% number. I know 64% versus 39 is a big number. Sounds like a lot. My question is what are those 1,500 gallons each? And how much of that knocks down this 64 number?
Well, we're by infiltrating all of the roof and all of the pavement.
Realistically, it makes it, in terms of what goes off the property, makes a huge difference. But in the number, the way that the state calculates it,
Right.
Mr. Netticott doesn't make difference in the world, but it makes all the difference in how you calculate it. Yeah. All right.
That's from the standpoint of the request for variance. Shouldn't that come into play? Shouldn't that be a major factor?
Certainly it does. And that's why and that's exactly what I was saying is that we can engineer our way around it to solve the problem. But there's also a matter of trying to see, is there a way we can reduce that number and still solve the problem? And that's all I was saying.
Can I,
Go ahead.
yeah, I had taken into account that there was that as a compensating factor, that this greater catch of that runoff into an infiltration system. Because you don't do that today, correct? In the present
No, no.
building. So there's no catch of that runoff. And it's under what are we talking, 8,000 square feet, the building? So personally, I think catching the runoff from the 8,000 square feet into an infiltration system more than offsets percentage or 2 percentages in
that's-
impervious.
That's why I was asking the
No,
question. at the
I just
beginning,
think it's a
is
lot
what's
to
the
ask
number?
the applicant to like. I mean, I just look at the property. I think it's a lot to ask of the applicant for a percentage, 2%, 3%, when he's catching 8,000 square feet of runoff into an infiltration system. I understand the rule, but
84.
I would be more adherent to like that ask if they weren't catching anything. I feel like their goodness of catching the runoff is not being rewarded. We're just asking that, but.
I mean-
You're hitting exactly the point I was asking Mr. Nerval is what's the actual percentage you actually would hit?
Yeah. So it's
So
like
that-
the 8,400 for the buildings and plus the parking lot. So it's.
No, I don't mean that. I mean,
Square
if you,
feet.
the amount that you're actually gonna get, how many square feet you're actually gonna get with those parking spaces?
Oh, yeah.
That's what I was getting at is like, if that's a 0.5% difference,
Yes.
that's what I was getting at before.
So it's
That's
about,
kind of what I was asking the question for, is I wanted to know
You,
realistically.
you
what's the
should, you should
percentage?
stop talking and let him take the time.
it's probably a
You
couple.
moved me more than you did.
I know. I was hoping he was gonna tell you guys it's gonna be a 0.25% difference.
That's.
It's probably only like a.
That's the math I was kind of doing in my head. And
That's
To
what I-
follow up, I agree with what Derek said, and to follow up on it, not only that, this is, you know, relatively clean water coming off a roof that's being caught. It's not like we have a massive asphalt jungle here that we're looking at. And so, yeah, I mean, to me, it's not we're not putting the oil from the tar into the ground. We're not, this is one of those instances where, when we're asked to look at a variance, we're allowed to use a little nuance and a little common sense. And to me, it's not an issue.
That's
Graded down Second Street.
I mean, that's why I really incorporated the existing to take that out to infiltrate it, so.
When we're, just to your point, engineering around something, I feel like they've already engineered around it.
They have.
So had we asked and they hadn't had that and they came back and they gave it to us, I think we'd be satisfied.
We would. That was literally my point. I was really hoping he was gonna tell you guys it's only 200 square feet and
No.
that only is a 0.25% difference between what we're giving you now and not.
Yeah.
So it's not gonna make a damn bit of difference. Sorry. I was hoping he would sway you. That's why.
No.
Go ahead, Morris. Did you have something else? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was just actually wondering, I know it's not our job to provide solutions,
Correct. That's why I wasn't trying to provide the
So-
solution.
but when I look at the front entranceway coming in from Crandall Avenue,
Yes.
and I also look at the area underneath the stairway on effectively, I guess, sort of the north side of the northwest side of the building, where the filter pods are, all the way back past the stairs. Could those be addressed with permeable pavers? I mean, there's no snowplow back there. That's all hand shoveled.
That's the handicapped access though. That's the ADA access way in that main entrance coming in from Crandall Avenue.
Back here.
Oh, the back. Oh, I thought you said the entrance.
Back
to
here,
Crandall
and
Avenue.
then this one right here.
The one from Crandall Avenue is the handicap access.
That's great.
That's grass, Morris.
No, the pathway, he's saying. Can you take the pathway out?
That's a staircase that goes up.
The staircase is resting on the ground, right? So on what? And then the rest of it is all grass? Okay. All right.
Columns.
Thanks.
Not even have.
I thought you meant get rid of this. I thought you were saying get rid of this and I'm like, oh, that's the handicap access into the building. It's that access ramp.
Mr. Chairman, if I may,
Yes.
I just want to be clear, the cupola, I don't know if there's, it needs to be said that the cupola is 10 feet above the 6-foot height variance.
Yes.
Independently. Because I don't know if there was a new thing that was brought to my attention today that an architectural feature was limited to 4 feet. I don't know if you call this an architectural feature or a functional feature. Just wanted to be clear that the 10 feet is addressed. And not thrown into the, I could,
This statement is 35 post 41 plus Cooper. So I interpreted that as him taking the.
Correct.
10 feet.
plus cupola, okay. My apologies.
Yeah. So my understanding from the zoning official is that the cupola is not part of their calculation.
Right.
Okay. So to get back to this, now that we've had our discussion amongst the board, let me re-poll. When it comes to the variance, because what's before us again is 64%, and irrespective of anything that the applicant may do between now and final plan to address, minimal changes that might be able to be done to address that percentage of 64%. Irrespective of that, where do we fall on that 64%? On the variance, having 64%, which is a variance of, and I apologize, thank you, 29% for the impervious surface. So Jeff?
Again, hoping for better, but I'm okay with it right now, so I'm gonna be agreeable to this proposal today.
Okay.
Yeah, any improvement that you can make as you go through your project would be appreciated, but I'm okay.
Like you've done a lot of the work with the runoff and everything, so it's good.
Morris?
0.9% is a lot. I think I'm gonna maintain my current position.
Patrick?
I'm fine with it as proposed. I would like to see you skinning that down if at all possible without incurring ridiculous expense, for that.
All right. Okay. Based on what I'm hearing from polling of the board, it would appear that there is sufficient members of the board and sufficient evidence that's been presented by the applicant for each one of the individual variances that are requested to meet the requirements to this to the board's understanding for granting the dimensional variances that are requested by the applicant. So at this time, if any member of the board would like to make a motion, there is a draft motion. And again, before we do that, there is a draft motion, and just again, to review the procedure, there is a motion that has to be made for the variance request first. And that variance request has to be done with the separate from approval of the minor land development with the it being subject to the land development approval.
I'd like to make a motion, the Westerly Planning Board pursuant to unified review approves variances for application 2026 UMJLD01 master plan review, unified major land development and variance requests, Mesquamacut Fire Station expansion, 65 Crandall Avenue, assessors map 164 lot 214, including a variance of 29% for impervious surface, a variance of 6 feet for building height, a front yard setback variance of 2.5 feet, a corner yard setback variance of 6 feet, a side yard setback variance of 1.5 feet, and a parking variance of 4 spaces, all of which are subject to land development approval.
Any discussion from members of the board? Hearing none. All those in favor? Oh, sorry, wait.
Just at this point, we're just doing variances. We're not doing land.
Correct. This is
Okay.
just for that.
Yep,
Yes.
nothing. Good.
Okay, hearing none. All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed?
No.
Any abstain? No, hearing none, so the motion carries 7-1. 6-1.
6-1.
6-1, yeah, I'm sorry, 6-1. Found Patrick that time. 6-1. Okay. Now that we have approved the variances, the next thing for discussion amongst the board is the land development application as a whole. So at this time, I'll open up to the board for discussion in terms of the application itself. So this is beyond the variances that we just talked about. I'll just take it down the line with the board. If you have any comments, questions that you'd like to bring up for discussion with the board,
All conditions.
or conditions or anything else that you'd like to discuss. Jeff?
Well, we're talking about other conditions that they're gonna present to us at a later time, next time? Is that what we're talking
Or
about?
anything that's come up tonight that,
We're talking about landscaping plan, lighting plan.
Correct.
Those are
Yes.
things that I'd like to see before we do a final
Yes.
approval.
yes,
So those would be part of my conditions.
okay, yep. So from that perspective, I know the applicant has already agreed to waive their landscaping plan until their defer. Waive it tonight, but defer it to their final plan submission for their landscaping plan. And we discussed including, at that time, the lighting plan, which would be required at that time anyway. So both of those can be, included as conditions, they would be a requirement at that point in the application regardless, correct, Diego?
Yes, yes.
Mhm.
I guess one other thing, Tony was mentioning some calculations on actual storm drainage runoff, some more serious numbers or real numbers that we can go by. And you're the engineer on that stuff, but I mean, it's for drainage and catching the drainage, basically, and the flow.
That would
I'd like to see-
also be required at the next plan submitted, correct?
Yes.
Right. So that would, I don't know if we have to add that as a condition, because it would be already in the requirement at the next plan submitted.
Yes, I don't believe we do.
That's automatic in there?
Yes.
Okay.
Some things are required at the next plan submittal, because this is the master plan, so we haven't done a master plan in a while, because we've done a lot of, now my mind's drawing a blank. What have we done lately? Yeah, thank you. So lately, when we do the master plan, you're going through a process where you're getting, the master plan, then you're getting, a more detailed set of plans, and then it's going to final plan review. So we just haven't gone through this process in a long time, because this got pushed to the wayside for a lot of projects under the new old rules, I guess you could call it, when they changed the rules, and now we've sort of changed things back again. So yeah, we're back into the way we were 3.5, 4 years ago, I guess.
The only
in some
other
respects.
question I have is, did the architectural review board go through it and review it and approve it? And the other question I have is, do we have a list of materials that they plan to use to build this?
So
Exterior materials.
I can guarantee you that certain members of the architectural review board will likely have to recuse themselves from this project.
Right.
Not saying who, but
Yeah,
certain members. Well,
I have the updated draft and materials were, I'm sorry.
List of
Go ahead.
materials.
Not list materials, but the way the materials were discussed amongst other things with the architectural review board. I recused myself, and we have those, you have the minutes of those meetings in your packet.
so we don't have them in this packet yet, but we will have it in the next.
Oh,
So they should have been included as an active link in the administrative officer's memo.
Oh, it is? I didn't
Yeah.
see that one. I didn't,
Um,
I apologize then.
So it's in the actual text as a link. So in the actual body of the text.
Gotcha.
And just to add on to that, so the application was presented to the ARB on May 7th. The draft minutes are there attached. And overall, there was a positive advisory opinion to the planning board, including recommendations and a recording of the minutes. All those have been included.
Okay, good. Fair enough.
There you go. Well, I'm glad to hear it. I saw his name on it, so I kind of assumed that was going to be the case, but I'm
Yes.
glad to see that it was the case, so. All right.
recused,
So I-
right? First line, accused. Is a copy of the thing.
Go ahead, James.
Yeah, the only condition I was gonna mention was, that the applicant shall provide an approved lighting and landscaping plan upon, prior to, final plan approval.
Okay.
No, nothing to add.
Nothing to add? Patrick, anything? Okay, so I think we have basically just one condition, and that is the landscaping plan, because that's the only thing that wasn't provided here. For the lighting, I think we get regardless, because that's part of that next submission anyway, right? The lighting would be part of the next submission regardless, right? Because that is a requirement in the next one.
I believe so.
We can add it as a condition, just to be
You
safe.
can. Yeah.
So,
Okay.
yeah, so I believe it's part of the next submission regardless. As is the drainage is part of the next submission, as is the RIDEM approvals and everything else, so.
Do we need lighting plan if we're not doing anything extra?
All right, so we have one condition of approval, which is the
Landscape plan.
landscaping plan and the lighting plan.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Are there any other discussion or comments from members of the board regarding this application?
No,
We can entertain a motion if someone is inclined to make one then.
Make a motion that the Westerly Planning Board approves with conditions the preliminary plan for application 2026 UMJLD 01, master plan review, unified major land development and variance request, Musqueamicut Fire Station expansion, 65 Crandall Avenue, Assessors Map 164, Lot 214, for development consisting of a renovation to the existing fire station and construction of an expansion along with paved parking, drainage improvements, and a new septic system. Approval is granted in accordance with the application and supporting materials, including plans titled Site Improvement Plan, Master Plan Submission, Addition to the Musqueamicut Fire Station, 65 Crandall Avenue, Westerly, Rhode Island, Plat 164, Lot 214, prepared by On-Site Engineering Incorporated, 5 sheets dated March 25, 2026. A condition of approval includes that the applicant shall provide an approved lighting and landscaping plan prior to final plan approval.
Any discussion from members of the board? Hearing none. All those. Oh, sorry. All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? Any abstain? Okay, motion carries 6-1. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for your
Thank
time
you.
this evening.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, our next order of business is the Administrative Officer's Report. Item G1, future agenda items and monthly report matrix. Diego?
Yeah, in terms of the monthly report matrix and project updates, there was not anything that was communicated to me by the principal planner in terms of things that the board should be made aware of. In terms of future agenda items, there's not anything currently on the schedule for the June 16th meeting, although I might recommend that the housing committee discussion be moved to that. And we can get into that now or in item 3. I don't know what the board prefers. Because it is on the agenda for today also.
Right. Why don't we take it in order?
Okay.
And we'll come back to it?
Yeah.
Okay. Any questions from members of the board on the matrix or anything that we need to address? Okay, the next thing we have in front of us is the advisory to the town council and the bus garage alternative sites. You also received tonight, in addition to the memorandum from the clerk's office that you received with the agenda, that has the criteria for the bus depot to be relocated, and the matrix of locations. What you received tonight is just 10 of the 13 locations that were identified in green on the final matrix, along with the locations identified on a map and individual aerial photos and locations of each one of the spots. So each one of these locations, per the memorandum that we received from the town council and from Pear Engineering, are ones that meet the limitations that were laid out in their report for identifying locations, alternative locations for the bus garage location. So if you recall, this process started here at this board with these 3 gentlemen right here and their concerns about the electric buses, the charging locations, and the fire concerns for the current bus depot, where it sits, and what happens if we have a bus fire with an electric vehicle, because of the real world concerns around what it takes to put out a fire from an electric vehicle or really contain. Really big electric vehicle, what it takes to contain that water, and then what happens to that water and where our current bus depot sits, because as we identified and as we brought up to the town council's attention, the bus depot sits where?
It's in the well had protection overlay district.
Right, meaning that any of the water.
Meaning
that's
it's very
above
close to the
that
well
50
field.
So
60% of the water supply Westerly.
there you go. So that's why we identified it as a concern to the town council. That's why they're addressing it. That's why they hired Par to look into this. Par put together these locations.
Who confirmed what this planning board reviewed and moved on to the council? They confirmed every one of our points.
Par did.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah,
Absolutely.
exactly. Yeah, so they looked at all of this. They said, yep, everything you guys were concerned about, it's a real world concern. So here's what we would recommend. They put together 10 they put together a list of all the town owned land, which ones fell within the criteria that they established and provided us this list. What the town council is looking for us to do, per the May 4th meeting, is the town manager to work with the town staff and the planning board on the alternate site locations, taking into account the attached parameters and the site recommendations to be provided to the town council. So the town manager is looking for us to provide to him, again, as one of the agencies reporting back to the town council, what our recommendations might be for this. So I'm willing to entertain from the board what your thoughts are, what our role should be for this. And Diego, if you want to chime in terms of what the staff has been told or indicated from this. Go ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. I was gonna say, I can give some context into how the packets that you have in front of you were created, and then also just to preface, I think the feedback that we're looking to get, because I did check in with the town manager prior to this meeting, and I feel like he wanted to make the point clear that it's not his expectation to have you guys return to him with a set plan. I think more than anything, it's supposed to be an ongoing dialogue, and to get just general reactions in terms of the information that you're being presented with today. So with the packet that you initially received attached to the agenda, that was a packet that the planning office and the assessor's office generated together. That filter was essentially town-owned land that had the minimum available land as it relates to the current municipal bus garage. So I think right now the total impervious surface, which includes the existing building, is about 2.5 acres. So the filters that were applied were all town-owned land greater than 2.5 acres. From there wasn't a filter that was available from the assessors with regard to the aquifer protection zone and the wellhead protection zone. So planning staff had to go individually one by one and kind of filter out the ones that were, just completely covered in either of those two zones, also wetlands. And that's kind of how we got that first packet. The second packet that you received tonight was planning office in consultation with the town manager. So we sat down actually yesterday and we kind of went through it a little bit more. And the one column that you'll notice that is included in tonight's packet that was not previously included was zoning, which is an important piece because in terms of allowed uses by right, a bus garage is only allowed by right in two zoning districts, which are general industrial and light industrial. So if you look at the first page of the packet that you received tonight, you'll notice that the only parcel that actually is zoned general industrial is site 5, 33-39 Larry Hirsch Lane. And that's currently used as the DPW transfer station. The other 9 sites are included on there because there are pathways that the board can consider in terms of making them feasible sites, but it would require work. The site 5 there is probably the most direct route, but that also warrants some consideration. Yeah, and I don't know if you guys have any other questions or reactions, but that's pretty much the spiel that I wanted to give.
So one of the questions that I had that Jean and I were talking about before the meeting started was, one of the largest factors once, you've honed in on, these are the properties that meet the minimum criteria. One of the largest factors now becomes logistics.
Right.
For the bus company. The roads in and out of each one of these locations, the access for the buses, the ability to stage, store, turnaround, the buses and where they're located relative to the routes that are being used for the various things. So putting it on the outskirts of town versus the center of town versus, a location that makes sense for, getting the buses, the minimum amount of transport time, to the, picking up kids in the morning and vice versa, or turning the buses over, on a daily basis. That's a question that is something that's probably more suited to the bus company answering for us than this body answering, because they're gonna be the ones to say that, well, from our standpoint, logistically, this site makes more sense to us. And that's a factor we'd want to weigh, because if we look at the site and say, well, yeah, that's more work for us to do, but ultimately it's a better location for the town moving forward, maybe that's work that's well suited for this body to do if it's going to make more long-term sense for the town.
Cost wise too.
What's that?
Long-term cost.
And long-time cost wise too,
Long-term
exactly,
cost,
yeah,
hours,
right, yeah,
fuel.
fuel, everything.
Right.
If we have if we know, what makes sense for them, so, I look at, Charahoe's bus depot sits right down the road from where, the middle school, the high school and everything else is, and that seems great, except it's also a really large district, so yeah, it's centrally located to the school, but they have a massive amount of area to cover. So while it's close to the school, it's also pretty spread out from where everyone's at, because the school isn't centrally located between the district. So it's not necessarily, it's in a good location for the school, sort of a bad location for the transportation and distances the buses have to travel. So there's give and take there that we have to consider when you look at that.
If I may, I noticed that, to that point, I noticed that the middle school property isn't listed, it's not listed on here as being one of the properties. And I know there was some discussion about the middle school property.
You're saying in the packet you received tonight that it's not listed?
Yes.
Right. So in the report that was given to us by, I'm not sure if it's pronounced Pear or Par. Par. One of the criteria that they said was no schools or churches. It was not something that I looked at the.
They didn't want near a school or church?
Yeah.
Diego, do you know how much this
whole reason we said
costs?
fire.
Not that, I mean, this is.
Hey,
Do you know how much?
the whole reason we did this was fire.
Yeah, I
We
know.
probably don't want an EV fire next to the school.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
given that most of these EV fires that happen are off hours, what's the exposure at the school if the building is actually remote from the school on the property?
Yeah, that's the.
No, I was just saying that might be the reason why they said no.
And that would be a really, really good location because it's away from neighborhoods and everything else.
I don't know what the middle school
So-
property is, but if you've got 250 feet between the storage and the building, or I don't know what what they would want, that's.
Other than, I'm not sure where on the middle school property you have that unless, yeah, I don't know if you have that. on
So, so the middle school property, here's the reason why. The middle school property is popular. I love your GIS, so I'm always looking at the GIS. That area is outside of the Aqua Overlay District, outside of the Wellhead Ridge. It's a great area in that regard. But to Matt's point, it's all about moving kids to school, and Charahoe's right down the street from their school. I'm not sure how big that property is, and so that's where we're going.
Yeah, so the last bullet point I'm seeing right now of the recommendation site assessment was saying, selection criteria would include selecting a property based on the minimum separation distances outlined in NFPA 80A, which I had to Google beforehand, but that is the fire protection.
National Fire Protection Association, right? Yeah.
And that includes being at least 200 feet from the boundary line of any residential zone, of any school, church, park, playground, hospital, public library, or any place of public assembly.
So any school property or any school building?
I would
But
have
that, we'd have to ask NFPA
yeah,
that
I'd have to
question.
verify that.
Because if it's a big enough piece of property and you could have it on there and maintain that 200 feet, you may be all right.
that piece of property is huge. At that point, we should be able to have that facility far enough away and still be away from that little kind of prohibited area that's part of that parcel.
So I would ask us if we can add that one back in,
Right. I think the other part too that I don't want to neglect.
get some more information.
I was just gonna say, the other thing that I would want to draw attention to is the fact of zoning. So as per the town ordinances, a school is not zoned the same as like by use, right? So even though it might have the space, it's not a permitted use to have a bus garage there.
Within, even if that use would be permitted on an adjacent lot? In that, if it's zoned, is a school a special zoning like that parcel? Is it its own? Is it
Yeah.
you know what I
We
mean?
have the
If
space.
if it was a permitted use in that, you know, I don't know what Westerly Middle School is or what it is. It's highway commercial. If it's permitted use in highway commercial or whatever. Is it specific to just the school or? Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I don't think you guys realize you don't have the space that you think you do on that property. I'm looking at the GIS.
I was
map.
just looking at it and I mean,
So-
you've got from the
This is your.
from the south edge of that building to, and I'm doing it right now, from the south edge of that building to
The top part.
the southern border of the property. And this is not to the next structure. You've got 150 yards, which is how many feet? We said.
You're talking to the street? Is that the street?
No, south. No, it's the other way. Not
So-
away from Post
So
Road.
here's the property.
Oh, but yeah, there's not much back there.
So yeah. But what are you looking at? You're looking at, there's water here. So you have a water feature and a wetland here.
I'm looking.
Where? From there to there? So you're talking about getting rid of the ball, they're talking about the middle school? Talking about getting rid of the ball fields?
The ball field is here. And you've got, let's say to that corner, you've got 150 yards. What about here?
So this
I know
corner
the-
right
I
here.
know the-
I don't think you have 2.5 acres in that corner. And still have the set, I don't think you have 2.5 acres, and still have the setback you would require to be able to do that.
And then these neighbors, that is really cool.
That's the soccer field. This?
Yeah.
That's the athletic fields for the middle school.
Maybe it's not, but I don't know why you just kind of,
What's that?
we're just doing cocktail napkin math
Soccer
here.
field. The size of, it's a regulation soccer field.
It is a
The
soccer.
road
field.
comes in here. This is the soccer field for the middle school team. That's their baseball field. That's their that's the parking lot right here. That comes in. This is the area that they use for their, what do you call it? No, for, not farm, horticulture, whatever you call it.
The garden.
Gardening, thank you, gardening. So the only real area you have is this back corner right here, and I don't think you have 2.5 acres of land with.
I mean,
against
I
residents.
would encourage you to just go up and look at that. The topography of that is like, that is a hill, that is undulating.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah, and going down to this thing, going down to the
Yeah.
Route 1 is like, you can't
Yeah.
build on it.
yeah. That's out here, and that's now all a wetland.
So for, also I'll add for the middle school at 10 Sandy Hill, the soccer field is, I would say maybe 75% in
Yes.
in the outdoor
Right.
protected zone and the wellhead protection zone.
Right,
So.
no, I understood, yep. Yeah, that's why I'm saying, I don't think you realize there's not as much land on the middle school property as you think there is. Or at least buildable land on their property, unless you take out the parking lots and the athletic fields. Yeah, no.
The baseball field's built in the wrong direction, by the way.
Yeah, I know, the sun goes in your eyes.
Sun goes in your eyes, it makes no sense.
Same as the softball field, the other side of town. Drives me nuts.
So our
I'm
job,
allergic, same way.
so it seems like the priority is to move it.
So, yeah, I think that's what
That's
they're
the high-
asking.
Yeah,
So I think, the questions that, and I'm not even sure, I don't know who our bus company is. Frankly, I have no idea. My kids have been taking the bus forever. I don't know who.
Isn't it private? I mean, not private, isn't it public?
I have no idea.
Town?
That's my point. They
Oh.
don't know. My kids have been taking the bus for the last 15 years, but I don't know who the contractor is. I don't know how we manage the bus company, but those are questions I think we need to find out. And find out what their, we know what their requirements are. We know they need 2.5 acres. We know that. I think the question becomes, is there
Well,
a,
we don't know if 2.5 acres is still a requirement,
well, we know it's a requirement par.
but
put
that's
together,
what
but
currently
yeah,
exists there
what
now.
currently exists.
Right. White Rock.
White Rock,
8 Springbrook.
yeah. It's all, and it's over by White Rock, yeah. Yeah, over in that area. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. If it was to be built today.
almost
it
opposite
would never.
Bruno's, pretty much.
Yeah, if it was. Right. If it was ever to be built today, it would never be permitted to be built there. So, yeah, and if it hadn't have been for the EV issue, it probably would still be there
And
forever.
it wasn't even an EV issue.
It
What
was,
it was an affordable housing issue.
Affordable housing.
And we were
issue.
looking at all sorts of land and
Yeah.
suddenly it was there.
I was gonna say,
this
I
is
opened
how-
that can of worms, I think.
So
Yeah.
this is literally how the planning board works.
We randomly stumbled
There's-
upon it.
We're in a conversation. There was an article in the paper about an EV fire at a bus depot. And we're looking at property and we see it, and suddenly, next thing you know, we wanted, chairman for the committee. We brought stuff together, the committee discussed it. So with the full board and we sent the letter off.
Yep. So,
I would just, having gone through the report, I don't know what the town paid for this, paid these consultants. There is, I mean, to me, the primary concern wasn't, I mean, it wasn't really, I mean, it is addressed in that, okay, move the, but there was a lot of fluff in this report. And I mean, there was nothing, when they were speaking of containment, they were talking about 110% of the largest fuel tank. And, if you have any just basic knowledge of what it takes to put out one of these fires, you're talking about tens, if not, no, you can't put out the fires. They talk about putting out the fires a lot. You cannot put out these fires. Okay, so the consultants speak of putting out the fire and you can't. There's no suppression method. The suppression is dump water on it until thermal runaway has ended, which can be for hours. There's no discussion of the size of these batteries. There's no discussion. One of the primary issues with EV fires is the quality. What's the manufacturer? What's the make of the vehicles, the buses? I don't know, but one of the, at least that we found the largest determining factor in these fires is shoddy Chinese manufacturing on e-bikes or wherever. I don't know where they didn't talk about that. They didn't discuss at all how much water is required. Like that's easy knowledge to find. It's literally like near 100, depending on the size of the battery, tens or hundreds of thousands of gallons of water. And there was no consideration given to any of that. And this is like, there was a lot of best practices in fuel and none of it, that's not what we're talking about. We're not talking about a little diesel spill here. We're talking about putting massive amounts of water onto a lithium ion battery fire. And none of that, I don't know, maybe I missed it, but none of that was addressed in this. And I don't know what we paid for it, but it was a waste.
I think that.
So right now, I think what you're doing right now is tap dancing along and an issue and a point that a couple of us had brought up. One of the big pebbles that comes out of the shoe at this point is don't have EV vehicles, and this becomes a significantly easier problem to manage. Also too, one of the things that I noticed in that report, and it was potentially damning on the town, is they documented conditions inside the facility, documented the fact that certain preventative maintenance issues, like simple things like maintaining fire extinguishers, We saw compressed gas bottles chained to the eye wash and the emergency shower. It did a real good job of illustrating if we can't do, whether it's money, lack of personnel, or whatever else, if we can't do the small workaday maintenance things, when your maintenance profile is significantly higher because of the manufacturers of these batteries or whatever, they have PMs, they've got procedures and all these other things. If we're not doing this, how conscionably can we expect our people to perform at a higher level if we don't have budget, if we don't have extra tools, if we don't have annual recertifications for some of these things? It's very expensive.
And the reality is you can do all the PM in the world and it can still happen.
Here's the question, crazy question. If there's an EV fire and you can't put it out with water, why don't you just let it burn and not do anything? Stand there and just keep people away.
So,
What happens then?
so
I'm missing that.
we've spoken about this before. Our concern in our district is an EV fire. They have EV charging in the garage at the Ocean House. And so our best, yes, they do. And so that's a major concern for us, right? So our best idea right now is if there's a EV fire, hook the car with chains and drag it. And I mean, as long as we can get it safely away from the structure and from anything else, I mean, basically protect exposure and let it burn.
And for that self-same reason that you just illustrated, many municipalities actually prohibit charging stations and EVs inside of structures that are adjacent to, or like in a lot of cities, they're right underneath the apartment building. And it's like, there's no way to even get a low profile wrecker truck in there to pull these things out.
So we just had a lot of discussion about unanswered questions in the report, which I agree, all valid points.
I can make sure to communicate that.
We're not gonna fix that tonight. But what I would recommend is this. So we have this great map that has the legend of all the properties. How about we add the 5 schools we have to this map? To put it in context, so I just did it real briefly. They kind of form a nice arc right through the center of town. Dunn's, middle school, high school, State Street, Springbrook on a nice arc. And if you put them in context like that, and then look at where these properties fall in relation to that, it might help handing this to the bus company and saying, okay, these are the available properties if we had to move your bus company to. This is the packet of what they look like that would have to be developed and what the access in and out of each one of these are. Do any of these strike you as something that is more amenable to you being, yeah, I know. I thought the same thing as I just did this, as I said, damn, you know, what's in the center of all of these is Tower Street that we just redid, which would have been the perfect location for all of this. So hindsight being 2020, Tower Street would have fit right in, except I don't know it. Yeah, it's in a wetland though. So yeah, so maybe it would not have been on the list of town-owned properties that we could have used, but
So is a transfer station.
yeah, I know.
But when you look at a bus garage, to your point about the population of Westerly is a giant L along the river, down along the.
Oh, yeah,
shore,
it's exactly.
And a little pocket.
Yeah,
It's
but
exactly this
but
darker color.
the shore is, yeah, how many kids are getting picked up on the shore?
Not as much.
Oh, no,
Getting
no.
picked up
no,
on this
yeah.
L. That's what
It's all right. It's really concentrated.
It's this
along the road.
darker color, this darker shaded color is literally.
And Dunn's Corners.
Of the town. It's where all the schools are located. It's where all the population centers are. It's where everybody's being picked up.
And quite honestly, there's a large amount of wetlands out in the Bradford area. And then there's up in this area. And then this area, no.
So, you know, looking at this and saying, you know, I hate to say it. But, you know, if I pick the location in the center of this map, that's in the center of all those schools, what location jumps out to everybody on here? I hate to say it, but it's a municipal that we all know and love as the transfer station. And I hate to say it, but that really does jump out as the centrally located location for all of this. So
Where they come up with limited wetlands though.
what's that?
I don't know, I'm looking at the notes on the transfer station. I don't know where they're coming up with limited wetlands there. I mean, there's
There's
Chapman
Chapman
Pond and then a state WMA, right there.
Yeah.
Not just Chapman Pond, Grills Preserve and
Grills, yeah, and then, so if you go this direction back in here where the,
yes,
that's the area I think they're talking about. is this
Okay.
area back in here. They're not talking about this
okay,
space back here. They're limiting it to just this red portion of the property here.
which is right on the pond.
Yeah.
And
Which is,
I guess
but
it's
it's
better
back
than
in-
the,
it's the
better
former-
than the, you
Yeah,
know,
it's-
in our drinking water, but that's,
Can the solicitor's here, so I guess I can say it's the former landfill location.
I'll have to get back to you on that one. I don't know.
Yeah,
We do have.
so it's not designated because it's a former landfill. That's why it's not designated as a wetland. That's why it's not designated as a wetland. You can't have a landfill in a wetland, and because it's a former landfill, it can't be a wetland. It's amazing how that works.
For GIS.
All right, so in terms of what we want to get back and how we want to focus this discussion, I think.
Yeah.
It'd be good to have this map updated with the schools. I think the questions that we have that, we'd want to know is, can we get input from the bus company as to what their logistical preference would be in terms of what they're gonna need for access in and out of the property? Do any of these properties from a logistical standpoint not work for them? Because there's no point in us looking at them further if they think, hey, this is too far away, the roads in and out of it aren't gonna work, the timing getting to them isn't gonna work for us. It adds 45 minutes to the bus rides every morning. Unless they say that that's great for them because it adds 45 extra minutes of labor for their drivers every day, but that may not be great for us.
I know that
Um,
the school department has
the
that,
department, I don't like that. So,
we know how many EV buses we have?
I think it's I
yeah,
think.
Was that in this
about-
report?
I don't know if it's in this report, but
If
I
you
know it
look
was
in the, remember the budget
it was in
report
the
that you were
final
looking
plan.
at? Because I think the school committee actually had, or may have had, another EV bus programmed. And I think they, I think they withdraw, I think they withdrew bus number 10, if I'm right.
Yeah, I believe it's under, I know it's under 10,
Yeah.
but I don't remember the exact number.
Can I?
But it was in the packet, and when we reviewed this originally, it was in that number that we had.
We also
Is that not
individual.
a third option? Is it, I'm sorry to
Oh,
interrupt.
no, go ahead.
Is that not a third alternative to finding new, I mean, listen, I've got solar panels on my house and I've got but is it not, to Morris's point, is it not a potentially more cost-effective option to replace those buses with diesel buses? I don't know, diesel.
I think there's two factors here. That might be a cost-effective option for that, but I think they also want to get the bus depot out of the wellhead protection area, period, because I think now that we've identified this as a concern, beyond just the EV buses, the fact that we've got this in a location that's sitting over our wellheads becomes a problematic issue for the town. So there's two issues that we identified. By identifying one, we identified another. So I think both of them became.
Well, James also highlights, a very, very reasonable and prudent item, which is we're gonna have a bus facility, right? So you're gonna have traditional hydrocarbon fuel vehicles, and you're gonna have EVs. And they're gonna be either segregated by a massive firewall, or just gonna be separate buildings to boot. And now if we don't have that particular part of the financial equation, we're looking at a very, very different animal where we're just dealing with one kind of vehicle.
Yeah, and that is another logistical.
And a lot of our environmental sensitivities go away.
Power. We have to bring, if we have these EV vehicles there, looking at some of these properties that were on there, that was the other thing that jumped out at me.
I'm
Some
sorry.
of these ones up like Woody Hill Lane,
Right.
Single phase though, it's all single phase. right?
No, it is, but we gotta bring power into each one of these locations. And some of these locations are relatively remote.
Yeah.
So the cost of. No, I know, but in terms of that, it's another question for the bus people, folks, for what is the cost of bringing power in for the EVs? Because that could factor into that equation.
Oh, yeah.
If we have to move that and bring that in, and some of these locations that are relatively remote, undeveloped areas, now if we're talking about the fact that you'd have to add in roads, add in power, add in, all of those costs add up, make these untenable properties. So now your list of 10 might quickly whittle down to 3.
Right.
Very, very quickly when you add in the logistics factors of what is a reasonable spend for the town. So I think that's the question we really need.
No, I think you bring up legitimate concerns here. I mean, I sit back and I'm listening to this discussion, and could be an incredibly expensive undertaking. I get back to, you gotta start with the bus company here and the logistics of it. We gotta have that input. We're gonna sit here and talk amongst ourselves, but we're not gonna accomplish much until we get the professionals that understand the logistic problems, that we have no idea what we're really
That's
talking
my point.
about.
That's all I'm trying to
But
figure out is what
we are
question-
talking about some legitimate issues with the EVs and the fire. I learned something tonight. I didn't understand how you'd have to drag out one of these EVs from the Ocean House or wherever it is. And that's a major concern. And I guess I'm gathering that we've already invested heavily probably in these EV vehicles, and, I guess people had good intentions, but probably didn't think the whole thing through.
Well, I don't think when we invested in it, I don't think anyone we hadn't had a
Feasibility study?
No, I was gonna say, when we invested initially in it, I don't think we had a full cargo container catch fire in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean and sink full of EVs. That hadn't happened yet. So a lot of these high profile events of EV fires hadn't happened when we invested. So I don't want to necessarily say that anybody made a bad decision at the time or made a bad feasibility study at the time. We didn't know what we didn't know, but so did a lot of people didn't know what we didn't know. And now that we know it, it's like, okay, shit, how do we react? How do we go back now and make the best possible decisions with what we're stuck with?
Like looking for mold, once you find it, what are you gonna do?
What are you gonna do?
Yeah,
Exactly.
it was all incentivized.
Yes.
Just
Go ahead.
quick question. On page 1 of 12,
Yes.
where it shows 047 to 122, 117 Mountain Ave.
Yep.
That piece of property that's all the way down the end of the road to the right, what is that?
All the way down the end of the
Go
road.
past the ball field, go all the way down Mountain Avenue towards the right of the picture.
There's some basketball.
Oh. That's Mountain Avenue. That's you right here, this piece of property?
That,
Yeah, that's UBS.
the one with the solar
used to
field
be-
right next to it?
It used to be UBS. It was a UBS warehouse. It was a UBS warehouse, United Builders
Okay.
Supply, back in the day. So I don't know what's there now. I've been
That
to the,
looked like it's picture perfect and begging.
right.
It's got location, it's got some remoteness, but not so far away you couldn't get to it in a hurry, and close to the traffic pattern.
It's privately owned 40.5 acres in Westerly. That cost might be prohibitive to acquire it.
We floated bonds on worse things.
I know, but
It's a big,
that's
piece-
gonna be a big.
it's a big piece of property.
40.5 acres.
Right, because it's the whole mountain. Mountain Avenue is a giant mound of granite that goes over to Old Hopkinton Road. So it is solid granite, that most of that property. But they may entertain taking a portion of it. One thing I think is important is that boots on the ground always helps. So I think people should planning board members, if you have the opportunity, go by, and if we can arrange through the staff to let the bus garage folks know that there may be some planning board members coming by.
You're not getting it, it's the back end of the quarry.
Right, exactly,
Yeah.
the back end of the quarry. And it will go there eventually. We'll just chew that property up. But if we could advise, the bus garage, there may be some members, because we gotta know, what do we have today?
Yeah.
What do we need? What does it look like? Boots on the ground there, and then also on some of these other sites, we'll just go, if we can go see some of them that are more accessible. I'm not suggesting traipsing out in the woods.
Going on a hike in the woods.
I know hike in the woods.
So,
Oh, and the water department also. If you've never been to the water department, if you call Max Pizzato, right? I'm not kidding, right? Barry, that was a great day. So if you're new to the planning board, just in general, you should just call Max Pizzato and check out the water department and that white, yeah, you know him.
so just to keep us on track here for the purposes of this, to circle back in terms of what we need. The questions that we want to reach out to get interrogatories on is we want to find out from the bus company, of the 10 locations we have now, are there any that at their first blush are, well, first off, we want to add the schools to the map. We want to provide them this packet and say at first blush, are any of these completely untenable for you? From a logistics standpoint. Because if untenable,
What do they think of these individual
What do they-
locations
yeah,
as
these
opposed to
individual locations.
not to say which ones don't work for you,
Yeah.
because let's not forget who writes their check.
That's true. Logistically, are there any of these, appear to have challenges that might be unworkable, what those challenges are, so that we can at least hone this list down to a more manageable list to look at. And then what requirements are they gonna have for how many EV buses, what requirements are they gonna have for utilities to be brought into the property versus what is available at the locations that we have?
Would it be, Matt, would it be too much to ask? Or too soon to ask what the potential cost savings of, long-term cost savings, or should we,
I think
put that out?
let's get
Okay.
this first, because then I think we can take that information and say, okay, there's 3 locations here that maybe out of this 10, there's 3 of them that might be workable. And here's what the logistics to get them workable might be. And all of those are gonna have a price tag associated with it. Your alternative might be this. To make those things that could shave that price tag off might be a reduction in this. And who knows? Maybe there's somebody else out there that wants to buy all of our EV buses from us. We'll do a 1-for-1 swap. And then you guys don't have to worry about it anymore. I have no idea. Yeah. Okay. Any other questions or anything else that we want to discuss relative to the advisory to the town council? Again, this is not something that they're looking for an answer on us tonight, but at least head in the right direction for discussion purposes so we can help the town manager move this thing forward.
I'll make sure all that's relayed.
Awesome. Thank you, Diego. All right, affordable housing discussion with the housing committee. So they had a meeting on the 14th, which I tried to attend and I could not attend because I was stuck with my son's sporting events. So
I was gonna say, so that was actually something I wanted to check in with you about, because I was under the impression that they were gonna have that same meeting, but when I showed up, I found out that it was actually canceled.
oh, so that worked out well then. So
I was gonna say, there is actually nothing to report for that discussion because it did not happen.
okay, perfect.
Mr. Chairman?
So I have the memorandum from the deputy town manager and Aiden from their direction that they provided, which I can bring up here on my phone here. Now that I've said that out loud, now my phone becomes discoverable to anybody in a FOIL request, apparently. That's how that works, or at least that email does. Let's see. So Aiden and, Melissa, hang on a second, and I've lost my email from them. I should have printed it out.
And this was a statement coming forward at whose direction?
No, it was just a meeting in terms of summarizing what what direction the housing committee is heading in. More of a summary from Melissa as to what direction they're heading in that I wanted to
Aren't they
provide
supposed
you
to?
guys.
Aren't they supposed to be?
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was just gonna, I think I wanted to make one correction to that. So I think I was privy to that meeting. I don't think it was an update on what the housing committee was up to, but potential direction, right, that might inform their
Yes,
development process with regard to
that's
work.
probably a better way to phrase it.
Yeah, going
Thank you.
forward.
I just. I'm
Are they
having
not
difficulty
stood
bringing
up
it
underneath the planning board?
Yes, they are. And that's
Okay.
exactly my point. That's why the email came to me, and I'm just having difficulty bringing it up, and I apologize.
We had established a no later than our June meeting to meet with them together.
Correct.
Okay.
Meet with them together, yes.
Yeah, if we can take one thing back, I think it's sooner rather than later. It's, if people go down different paths, I mean, the council gave instructions, gave some direction. We're here to do long-term planning. It doesn't help. The last time we had a housing committee, they came in and there was an actual discussion about Eastern Bloc housing, how cheap it was in Eastern Europe for housing comparatively to the United States. Not really applicable to our housing conversation. It wasn't, it was talked about, these big Soviet
We can
brutalist
keep it
style.
there.
Yeah, and keep it there,
keep it
right.
right away.
I've seen it in Romania and it's cool and it works, but you don't want to live in it. So the question becomes one of, we all have to get on the same page as to what the characteristics of the town, how do we fit all these things in? How do we integrate more, more density in areas that are pleasing and for the future folks who are going to live there, who are going to live in the area, all of that.
There it is.
And how do we score some big things here? Because if we're here through the grapevine, various projects large projects are presented. A few years ago, the one on Wells Street, shovel hasn't gone in the ground, I don't think. So what really happens, it's great if we have those things and are always approved and moving along, but we all have to get on the same page.
In terms of attendance, you want the entire housing committee to come, or would you prefer the chair?
No, I think I think we're gonna get the whole housing committee here.
Yeah.
That's not gonna happen. We've tried
Yeah.
it. We're never gonna get the schedule to work.
Because I don't want them frustrated and I don't want them coming like the last one came and that report didn't land well, and I think at the town council and it didn't land well in other areas too. So I don't want to see that. I want to see us get these things done. We need the housing.
So this is what I wanted to kind of give you guys, and this is what I'm sorry, Diego, it was actually the memorandum on the front of it is from you. It's sent from Melissa, which is why I was having such trouble pulling it up. So what Melissa put together with Diego and Aiden was sort of a a framework for what the housing committee could be doing for us and what other housing committees and other towns are doing, and sort of what the differences are from what our housing committee has at its disposal and what others have at their disposal. So number one is that our housing committee has no fund or trust available to them. So one of the case, or some of the case studies that she pointed out, was that there are a number of towns that have an affordable housing trust, an affordable housing fund that's been established through the town from various mechanisms that allow for funding, that provides for incentives, that provides for development grants, for different mechanisms to assist with funding for affordable housing, or even for variations within affordable housing, which could include things like, you know, say they have, I think one of the examples she gave was, say they have a $60,000 a year fund. They could divvy that $60,000 a year fund up into, you know, different size grants based on, you know, repairs to existing facilities to ensure that affordable housing is available and in adequate state for residents to be able to occupy. You could look at it from the standpoint in some areas where they use it for elderly assistance housing, for things like access improvements, so that you can take an existing structure and make it ADA accessible as part of that improvement. So grants that can be used for those affordable housing things to incentivize property owners to bring those in. Yes.
In those other municipalities where housing committees are doing this, are they really called the housing committee, but they're serving in the cross-functional role of the housing authority for that town?
It's a great question. So in Barrington,
As opposed to like a subordinate subcommittee that helps the planning
in
board?
Barrington, they're the Housing Board of Trustees. In East Greenwich, they're the Affordable Housing Commission. In Narragansett, it's the Affordable Housing Trust Collaborative. South Kingstown, it's the Affordable Housing Collaborative. In Westerly, it's the Housing Committee. So, you know, call it what you will, call it what their charter is, what their things. So again, their scope of works vary. Some of them are, you know, again, they're beholden to a trust. Some of them are beholden to land management organizations. Some of them are advisory boards to affordable housing funds. And in our case, it is a advisory board to the planning board. So I think in that case, it's unique to us that it's an advisory board to the planning board versus, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was gonna make one correction on that. So all of the other boards are advisory boards, either to town council or town council and planning board. So I think in that regard, the structure is exactly the same as the other municipalities.
Okay.
So can we forward that email to the entire planning board so that
Sure.
we're all working off? Yeah, so if we get emails like that, that would be.
If I could clarify also
Sure.
why I think that email was just sent to Matt. So the intention was that when the housing committee was going to meet on May
This
14th,
is what I was going to discuss.
it was going to be, Matt kind of had that on his mind.
To discuss with
This is
them.
what planning office had kind
Yeah.
of,
The thing that didn't
about-
happen.
it was the meeting on May 14th was meant to
Was
be a
supposed
check-in
to
to say,
discuss with
okay,
them,
where
yes.
are your guys' heads at with regard to
Now
all this information?
And where are you
Now
in
it all
relation
makes
to what all these
right.
other towns are doing? So prior to
Yeah.
that meeting, I was all read into this, ready to go. And
Right.
then, yeah.
Right, but it did,
So-
yeah. So I think, I mean, Matt, in terms of going forward, do you believe that your attendance at a future?
Yeah, no,
Housing committee
absolutely.
meeting-
I think I need to be there for one of these to talk through these issues
Yeah.
with them. But I wanted to give you guys the idea of that there's other committees out there, and what they're doing different from us is that they have control of funding.
Yeah.
We don't have, and that's one of the key differences, I
Well,
thought.
And that was the other thing, because I did a bulk of this research too. So Westerly does have an ordinance that establishes an affordable housing fund. However, at this time, it has zero funds in it.
Yeah.
The other distinguishing part is that in the ordinance that establishes the housing committees in other municipalities, it specifically states that the advisory committee has some kind of control or some kind of direct correlation to how the funds in those trusts or funds are spent. But in our establishing ordinance for the housing committee, there is no correlation. It's just simply meant to be an advisory board to the planning board on issues of senior housing, affordable housing, and LMIH housing.
Westerly
And
also
if
has
you-
we also have a housing authority.
Right.
So.
Sorry.
We also have a housing authority. So, and how do they, and I've been wondering, how do they factor into this? Although the housing authority tends to take care of folks that are older, we need to deal with folks with families.
Right.
That seems to be the underserved market. So,
Let's be like John and I have been on the board long enough. You'll recall,
Yeah.
there was a mechanism to fund that.
yeah,
We got rid of that because that mechanism to fund it was actually the in lieu of LMI funding, which was basically if a developer didn't want to put LMI housing in, they could just pay money, put it in the fund.
that's right.
Problem was, we didn't have a regulatory mechanism to control that fund, divvy out that fund.
And it was never big enough to do anything with.
Big enough to do anything with, and there was no financial mechanism within the town to actually establish it or develop it. So
Right.
where we could get money for it, we couldn't actually manage it, use it, or anything else because there was no financial mechanism to do it. So we had to
So-
plan to get it, but no way to use it in the back end.
I think that
Now
more,
it's the opposite.
Now it's the opposite. Now we have the mechanism to do something with it, but no way to get it because we took out that element.
but I think circulating that to the rest of the board, we all need to get on one page because although it's great that we go in a direction, if you go there and tell them to go in a direction and then you come back here and you don't have 4 votes to go in that direction, or 3 other votes to go in that direction, it all ends up being moot. So, I mean, I just think we're at this phase where if you're in project management, there's 4 phases to a team: forming, storming, norming, and performing. No guarantee you can make it through all 4 phases. So right now, it seems like we're still in forming, possibly storming. But if they don't, I don't know how many meetings they've had, but we all need to get together and start talking.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
as a point of order, it is 9:26. Do we have a curfew at 9:30 for a hard stop?
I thought our curfew was 10.
Thank you.
Yeah. But yes, I was thinking the same thing, that 10 o'clock is our curfew. There are sort of 3 things that I do want to say that are sort of the longer term recommendations, before we talk about short term things, because there are a lot of short term different things for them to consider and flesh out and get back to us on, that other towns are doing that they want them to look into, and I kind of touched on some of those things, talking about those different programs other towns are doing and how those type of things could be established. Again, the funding is the key issue, but the longer term things that, to your point of what we're directing them to do, we want them to do. Number 1 is all of these ideas that we're talking about having them do are great, but they all require funding. And securing that funding, getting that grant funding, identifying those sources of funding, that's a key element that Affordable Housing Committee needs to be a key focus of their, short-term and long-term goals. What are the sources of funding that are out there? What can we get? What can they do to help the town secure those funding? What can they help the town council, the town manager, the planning board, and others to identify those sources? That's a short-term, long-term goal, and all the time goal for that entity to help with, because that's how we can do things. We can't do anything without any money. So that's a number 1. The other one was, well, I'll go to the last one first, is we've got to get a better standing calendar for their meetings. So that we can get a better interface between us and them. Because we've been trying now for 3 months to figure out how to get a report in and out between the 2, or me to them and vice versa, and it hasn't happened yet. So we have to get a better standing calendar between us, and, our calendar's set in stone. We meet, we're easy. We're gonna be here. No, they have met, they met the end of April. They did not meet the 14th, but I believe they meet again on June.
I don't know an exact date when they meet, but I can find out.
I think it's,
Yeah.
it, I had it written down. I can't remember what day it is. But I did have when their next one was supposed to be. But I can double check.
Yeah.
But I will find out. But yeah, and then basically when we want reporting out from them. So on what basis, in what format, and in what method we want it, so that we're getting a standard reporting back. So they know what our expectation is, you know, so that we get information coming back and forth between the two of us. So they're working in concert and we're reporting back and forth to one another.
The most critical thing that the planning board does, or besides hearing all the things we hear, is the comprehensive plan. Under state law, we are responsible for the comprehensive plan. And that is the long-term basis for the town of Westerly and how it develops and where. It's critical that if they form a committee, like the Affordable Housing Committee, that Affordable Housing Committee has to be familiar with the comprehensive plan. Because anything incorporated or proposed that runs counter to the comprehensive plan doesn't make it through the board typically. So it's important, again, it's incumbent upon, we're gonna need a laundry list, and maybe I can try to put some stuff together of tasks that need to be accomplished here.
So
That, familiarization,
along
And
those lines,
also the definition of the path and flow of communication is through the planning board.
right, and which they understand. Oh, let me get
But
to
doesn't
that
happen.
point here in a second, and that's what I'm getting to here. Is right now the housing committee ordinance that the town council passed set up a housing committee that has a certain number of members. It's established by the town council that reports up through us. Do you know what's not a member of that committee? Anybody on this committee? Do you know what's also not a member of that committee? Any member of the town staff. Do you know what else is not a member of that committee? Any member of the planning board staff, any member of the town staff. So that board right now, the way that it's set up, operates as a quasi-independent agency that's supposed to report up through us, which again, in some respects is good because you're getting an independent idea, but in other respects, it would be much better. We typically have, and we don't tonight, which I'm kind of shocked, it might be the first time in forever. We don't have one or two members of the town council here tonight watching us. I'm sure they're home watching us, so hello. But we typically have people here from the town council watching us because we report up to them. So they're here, they monitor what we're doing, they listen to what we're doing, they input on what we're doing on a meeting by meeting basis. And that's how it should be. Now, they're here because the town council designates for each board a counselor who is responsible for keeping tabs on that board.
The planning board is without a liaison.
I know, we're the only one without a liaison, but every other board has a liaison. That's because of state law, but we still have members of the town council that come down and watch us and keep tabs on us on a pretty regular basis, even though we can't officially have a liaison from the town council.
Right.
Which is fine.
Ergo.
And it works very well, although kind of do, but it is what it is.
Yeah.
My point being is that we don't have that right now with an advisory board that reports up to us. And maybe we should, and that might be a way to address some of these communications issues if we have a member of this board that also sits, maybe not as a voting member, but sits in as an advisory member or
Well,
liaison member to that
Fit
board.
in as an ex officio.
Exactly.
We do not have a liaison, but yet our subordinate subcommittee that's advisory to us does. And that is a part of the communication problem.
Right, exactly.
Alexandra.
Because that's how they set it up. That's what I'm saying. That's why I said.
Oh, my God, yes.
So-
Almost like there's no idea.
So anyway, that's something that we can work to fix. So those are three areas that should be relatively easy things that we can tackle pretty quickly. Now, the best part is state of Rhode Island has something called open meeting laws, right? Anybody aware of this? Anybody can come show up and sit in the audience for any meeting that's publicly noticed because that's the rules. That's why there's so many people sitting in the audience out there tonight, watching us and from home. But it also means that any member here can also go to any one of those meetings for our subordinate committees and attend them at any time. And they have to be publicly noticed and they have to be available for us to go to them. Right now, our subcommittee meeting is not publicly noticed for June because I checked. So that is something we do have to make sure that we are keeping on track of, because right now, we're not keeping that up. The other ones are, ARB is, all the other ones are publicly noticed. You can go on the website, you can pull them off the calendar. This one's not, so we
And
gotta make sure that is.
How many
I'll let
days
you
in
know.
advance do those actually have to be filed? Those notifications to the Secretary of
I think
State?
it's 2 weeks. Yeah. 14 days. So that's the one thing that we do have to make sure that we are doing. Because whether they report up to us, they report to the town council, they report anywhere through the town, that is something we need to make sure happens. But it's not on the town calendar right now, because I looked and I couldn't find it, so I was like, oh, that's a problem, but the previous ones were. But there isn't one on for June, but I had it written down, I just can't remember where I wrote it down, because I wrote down all the next ones from our last meeting. Yes, go ahead.
Mr. Solicitor. So the council, when they structured this, had it reporting through the planning board. Would we be within our rights would it be within his rights, the chairman's rights, to appoint a liaison from this body to that body?
Are you talking about the subcommittee?
Yeah.
Yeah, the
Oh, yeah.
planning board, yeah, the chairman has the authority to.
Yeah,
put on liaison.
That's what I said.
So you could just pick, well, no, you were talking about open meetings and all that.
No, I'm saying right now, any one of us could go to those meetings, but I said.
I know, but you need to appoint somebody.
Oh,
That's
okay.
what you're saying.
Yes,
Yes, good.
all right, there you go. Well, I would like to go to the next meeting, so
John, would you like to do it?
to be there. So,
Second that.
yeah, so I would like to be at the next meeting regardless. So let me go to the next meeting. Let me talk to them and get the sense of the room before I arbitrarily pick one of you based on your personalities and general demeanor that might be a good fit for sitting in the room with the housing committee to be a good fit for that group. Looking at you, Morris. All right. Was there anything else we wanted to cover on that?
No, that's it.
Okay. But I do appreciate the planning staff. I just want to, again, thank you guys for putting that together, sitting down with Melissa and going through it, because it helped me get my head around everything. I just wish I could have been there for the 14th, and then, so I'm glad to hear that it didn't happen, because I felt really bad that I couldn't get there. So, go ahead.
Are you regular now or are you still temporary with us?
So I believe until my fellowship ends out, I am not officially with you guys until that point.
Until to the new
Until,
budget?
end
Jan-
of September,
Good,
end of September.
okay, and then at that point, go, all right.
Okay, next, and anything else on affordable housing, discussion? Okay, next item on the agenda is our Assistant Solicitor for Planning and Zoning's report, which
Nothing to report.
outstanding. Future agenda items and board questions. I have one, but I will defer to you first, Morris. Go ahead.
Board questions.
Go ahead.
I shared an email to yourself and the vice chair earlier
Yes.
about events. Yes.
Yes,
And at that point, has there been any internal discussion on that?
there has not yet, but I was gonna bring it up here in a second. So you are one step ahead.
You are a mind reader.
No, I have two, well, I guess I have two issues then. I have two. So I received an email from Morris on Friday just regarding timing. I know we had this discussion back 6 months ago about timing of agenda items and the plans and for review for the members of the board, and to try to do our best as the planning staff to make sure that we're getting the agendas out to the members of the planning board as early as possible, and to try to hit our 7 days as best we can, as frequently as we can. So I think this time we got them on Friday afternoon.
4:27 Friday afternoon.
Yeah, so to the extent that we can avoid the Friday afternoon data dump, that would be outstanding, because I know when you guys send it at 4:57, I inevitably get an angry email from Morris at 4:58 saying, really? And because it ruins his weekend. So,
For the
Yes.
record, tonight, we had all the documents, because I love your new system, by the way. So it tells me when the timestamp. So all the files were uploaded on 3/25 for us, our review today. The zoning analysis came in on May 6th. So we easily had all the data all together to make our 7 days,
so here's the thing.
except for maybe some other reports that are on there, like the matrix or something like that. But
So,
that's not really as consequential as these.
so everything is there
Yeah.
for us to be able to look at. The question is whether or not you have the link to be able to access it.
Exactly.
But so
the-
that's really the issue is the link.
I don't know, but the good Lord says the database is updated on 3/25 and May.
Right.
So
May 6th, so I'm thinking 7 days is possible.
we spend a fair amount of time revising and looking at our rules, 7 days. It's also very, very similar to how items get on the agenda for the town council meeting.
Yep.
If there's a meeting on a Monday, you gotta have that information no later than like noon time on Tuesday, so they can move that forward for the agenda planning meeting and get it out.
What I was gonna suggest is this, because I think the thing that typically hangs us up is that everything might be uploaded, but what's not done is the administrative officer's memo for the report. So what I might suggest is that once everything's uploaded, if you send out an email with the link to the information, they can start reviewing it before the agenda comes out with the memo. And then even if you're getting the memo with less than 7 days, you've already reviewed all the information. So you've got context for the memo when the memo comes out. So then it's just reviewing the memo later, because that's, my guess is probably that's what's the holdup.
Having done this for the 250th committee now and done it for the DPW committee, you put an agenda out, I put an agenda out tonight if I want to, and then I just put updates as.
That's what I'm
it
saying.
changes.
But I'm
So the first one can go out and say, hey.
yeah,
this is
the
the
memo
hearing
won't
and-
be
yeah.
attached to it yet.
And
you'll get
then,
an update.
a revised one comes out.
So that,
and-
But
Well, how about your
the
intent?
agenda would still be released on time.
yeah,
And if there was a
Wouldn't have-
supplement or an update,
you
that-
wouldn't have.
that would be fine.
Administrative officer's memo, which is typically what is the last element that's added to the agenda. So you'd have the materials to review, which is the bulk of your review is always the applicant's submissions. And then, because I don't know how anybody else does it, I review the applicant stuff, and then the last thing I look at is your memo. I don't know, some people might do the reverse, some people might look at his memo and then go back and focus on what the memo does. I don't know, it's hit or miss, however you guys do it. But if you have all that stuff earlier, you can look at all that before you have the memo. I mean, does that work? Does that make sense?
Yeah, so I'm not in charge of putting the agendas together. That's for the principal planner, Aiden. I don't see a reason why he wouldn't be able to release the agenda first and then include any attachments afterward as they,
Okay,
as they come in.
I think that would be helpful. I think that would kind of hit the step in the right direction. Hit what you're looking for, get you the earliest stuff you can early, and then fill in the gap as we go through it. So you're not waiting to have everything at the end for review. You can review as you're going along.
I guess
the
I'd
only
also,
thing that I would have on a question with that, Mr. Chairman, is if that agenda is fixed 7 days ahead of time, and then Thursday, here's another whole application that we don't see until late Friday.
I don't think you're ever gonna see on the whole application. You're gonna see the administrative officer's memo, or you might see the zoning officer's memo come in. Or you might see, hey, we got the ARV's review. You might see an additional add-on to it, but you won't see something wholly new, because in order for it to be on the agenda, we would have already had to receive the complete application from the applicant. What you wouldn't necessarily have is the staff's recommendations before that. And again, they wouldn't necessarily see it. And we get this emailed to us. This may not be the final version that's populated on Clerkbase. So what we get emailed to us with the links is not necessarily what gets put up on clerk base, for the world to see once it gets populated with all the links. So you might get it with that initially, and then the version that goes up on clerk base has all the links populated once it's final.
I'm not as a big adherent to the 7-day rule, but I did want to say that part of my concern is that like,
I'm a consultant, so I'm never.
but part of my thing is that like, well, let's say an applicant did get all their stuff in on Thursday and, it's the difference between seeing it on Tuesday or another month out. I'd rather have it that Tuesday, but that would be me.
They typically have it in weeks ahead of
Yeah,
time.
in order to be on.
And in other words, for, they make it through the planning staff, we did when we were setting that rule, we did the math and it was something like 12 weeks. And we started pulling, well, it takes us this amount of time to review it, this amount of time, we kept subtracting it. And at the end, I still ended up with 16 days. That everything was like set and ready with a bow on, maybe not the memo, but pretty much sitting ready with a bow on. So, and for the most ones we've been dealing with lately have not been that complex. But when
Yeah,
we did,
we will get some crazy.
we did that crazy one and you were buried in that Winnipeg
Yeah,
one.
and
I
you
mean,
would get.
oh
you would
my
get
God.
revisions coming in the day of, the morning of the meeting. We were getting a completely revised plan set. And it's like, dear God, like, you're kidding me, like they just changed the whole plan on us.
Yeah.
So those became crazy meetings. So trying to avoid that as best we can. But, yeah, those were very painful to do. Cause they're putting up stuff on the screen and you're looking at the plans in front of you and you're like, this doesn't match what I have in front of me. How is this what I'm reviewing?
And
So,
they're all using the Rhode Island general law for the comprehensive plan to force it all down.
yeah, it was.
So you're always looking for that. Where's the problem?
All right, yeah, I don't know. So that's a fix. That's something we'll take care of. We'll work with Aiden and we'll try to get that done. The other, future agenda item board question I have, and this is something we talked about. It was a referral to us back in February and we punted on it. And we kicked it back to the rec board to come back to us with recommendations, and then we never heard back from the rec board. And it just faded away and we forgot about it. The Atlantic Ave property. Do you remember this? About recommendations that the town council asked us for? What were our recommendations for use for that property? Because they talked about the potential for housing, for recreation and other stuff. You remember this?
Yeah.
So we kicked it back to the rec board to come back to us, and we never heard back. Aiden was going through his files about a week and a half ago, and he was like, oh shit, Matt, I just came across this. We never heard back. We need to, bring this back up and get back to the thing. So I want to talk to Aiden about it. We're gonna try to get some information back from Recreation Board if they ever had any comments or whatever. So that next meeting, we can talk about that briefly and put together something to get back.
Can we go see the property too?
You can go see the property, yes.
I mean, but well, they're talking about the one with the building.
They wanted, this was, remember when we went through the budget,
Yeah.
Yeah,
they wanted how much, did that,
so we have this is the property they already have.
yeah, but they wanted, it was $150,000 or something like that.
Yeah.
To
Renovated.
renovate it.
Right.
And the rec department,
That's the one, yeah.
rec department was supposed to come back with
So,
recommendations. and-
What we need to do, if we want to, can we see through the planning offices to be able to get access to the property? If we wanted to go, if we
Oh,
wanted
yeah,
to,
you can go access it right now.
no, but in the building?
Oh, not in the building. No, I don't think you want to go in the building. Yeah, there's people.
They're active, okay,
Yeah,
so
it's active, it's occupied.
what's the status? So the main floor is just all empty. We
I
don't even know what it
if
looks like. See what I mean?
I don't know if
Nobody
it's, I don't know. I know
So
that,
if we're gonna give a recommendation, we should probably arrange for, at a future meeting or a get together,
yeah,
or some group of us to go take a look at it.
yeah. I'll go drive.
It's
by.
another property that we own that requires more money that was originally,
Right.
as I understand it, was originally purchased to be a parking.
Right.
And now it's another thing, it's another item on the budget that we need to We have a lot of these properties, as we saw when we went through the budget. It's like,
Well, it's
why
not-
do
it's
we?
Not big enough for a bus depot.
Yeah,
It's too
no, I
close to the
know.
Ocean, so rule it out of that one.
Just more money in and, you know, these turn into a parking lot. Should be a parking lot.
All right.
No money
Push-
out.
You can push the EVs right into the ocean from there. Okay, those are the only two items I had. Anybody else have anything else that we need to put on the agenda for the next meeting? Okay, confirmation quorum for our next meeting. So our next meeting, as Diego mentioned, June 16th. Right now, we do not have an applicant for our next meeting, correct?
Correct. No
So,
applicant.
we'll see if we have anything that comes up for that next meeting, but right now, assuming that we do have an applicant for our next meeting, and that we do have, a follow-up on our affordable housing discussion, and we do have a discussion on the two items that we, well, the one item I just brought up, because the other item is just getting an agenda. Who's, available here June 16th? Does anyone have any reservations? They cannot be here June 16th? You will not be here, or you are here? I'm here. Okay, good. Everybody's here. Nobody has any reservations. Outstanding. So we'll have a quorum in June. That is outstanding. And that is officially the last item that I have on the agenda this evening.
Motion adjourned.
Second.
Meeting is adjourned. The time is 9:50 PM. Thank you very much, everyone.